going to be on our Fox Local app. Stephen Dial, Casey Stiegel, and Sean Rabb are getting ready for 2 hours of analysis starting in minutes, starting at 7 o'clock. Just scan the QR code for the Fox Local app where you can watch our live election coverage for free. Thank you so much for joining us here for our early block of news. Don't forget, for news anytime, just go to our website, fox4news.com. We'll see you back here tonight for Fox 4 News starting at 9.
It is election night, runoff election night in Texas. I'm Stephen Dial, joined by Sean Rabb and Casey Stiegel. We are going to drive you through all of this coverage for this big night, especially on the Republican side when it comes to multiple races.
Yeah, the marquee race, as it's being called and being watched all over the nation, of course, is Cornyn Paxton for the Senate seat held by John Cornyn.
Ken Paxton, 63 years old, elected to the Attorney General's office in 2014, assumed office in 2015, so he's been in that post for more than 11 years. Cornyn, 74 years old, serving 4 terms. This is the 5th that he is hoping to secure. And frankly, John Cornyn tonight in a political fight for his life.
For sure. You're taking a live look at both campaigns, the Paxton camp on the left, which looks like more of a traditional watch party, and on the right is more media. But John Cornyn will be addressing the media at some point tonight. Guys, this is the most expensive Senate race in history. We've talked about it forever, it seems like. And in March, John Cornyn edging out, getting more votes, despite all of the polls showing him trailing in the March primary. But now this is a different game, Sean. Turnout is going to be very important.
So turnout is super critical. If there's low turnout, I have to believe that leans towards Ken Paxton. Why? Because in runoff elections, typically the people who are most passionate, most involved, most interested are the ones who go back to the polls and cast their vote. That might be those who are more MAGA influenced than others in the Republican Party. So we'll have to see. Mr. Cornyn is certainly hoping for a large turnout tonight, or certainly one that would push him over. Remember what you just said. In the primary, he came out on top despite being in the polls. And I think he's hoping that plays out again tonight. The one difference is Wesley Hunt, who was in the race, in the hunt, if you will, during the primary, is now out and has, as of last week, turned his support to John Cornyn.
And that's going to be
away from
important.
John Cornyn.
Right, and that'll be important to watch as well, who picks up Wesley Hunt's share of the vote. So we'll be keeping our eye very closely on Harris County down in Houston tonight. A reminder, the polls just closed a few minutes ago across the state of Texas. So we're going to start to see some of those early voting numbers coming in and some of those initial returns coming in. There you're taking a live look. Is that Austin, I believe? That's Tarrant County. They are ready. Again, the polls just closing, so buckle up, everybody.
First thing up for us, of course, will be the early vote. We'll get those numbers here perhaps in a half hour.
Right, and the early vote is going to let us know a lot. It's going to let us know a lot because traditionally nowadays people vote early. They don't typically vote on Election Day, and we're starting to see that being for both parties. A lot of people, but only 1 week of early voting this time compared to 2 weeks back in March. Our Davidson Tindry is live at the Paxton campaign. He is covering that side of the race for the U.S. Senate. A big race, David. What are you seeing there on the ground?
Well, right now, it's still early. This opened up at 6 o'clock to the general public. So right now, just taking a look around, we might have 50 or 60 people in here who are non-media members, but things are picking up. It was just a few dozen just a little bit ago. And we expect it to be much more crowded later in the evening, obviously, because this is one of the only races for people to attend and have a watch party for, since this is a runoff election. I would say there maybe were about a few hundred at the primary election a couple months ago that we attended. So we'll see how things go tonight, but so far things pretty typical. And then, of course, as you guys were just talking about a minute ago, this is really one of the most important races. This is the most significant race on the ballot for people in this runoff election. We're talking about Ken Paxton working to unseat U.S. Senator John Cornyn and the winner facing Democrat James Tallarico in November. Keep in mind, for months, President Donald Trump has dangled his endorsement, only announcing last week that Paxton is his guy. We know in politics it's typically difficult to take down an incumbent, and Cornyn has held his Senate seat for more than 20 years, since 2002, but Paxton has emerged as the frontrunner. Even before this runoff election, this was the most expensive primary in Texas state history, more than $100 million spent. And again, that was before the primary election, so more money spent leading up to this runoff. There have been certainly some direct attack ads in this race, especially Cornyn calling Paxton unelectable, making references to his divorce, very public divorce from his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton, and those affair allegations that Ken Paxton had related to that. It was actually, even recently, Cornyn declined a request from the state party chair to stop some of those negative ads. He, again, decided not to stop those ads, wanting them to keep running. I'm sure plenty of people have seen those commercials and different videos posted on social media. As for what we can expect tonight, we're told that Ken Paxton will likely take the stage just a bit after 9 o'clock, and that'll come after a few people introduce him, a few people here within the Republican Party. We saw maybe 3, 4, 5 people at the last watch party just hype up the crowd before he came on and took stage. But about 3 tonight, just after 9 o'clock, he's expected to take stage, but you never know if the person actually will, if the candidate actually will, because again, usually they want to wait to make sure that there is some sort of a decision with the election if ballots are tallied. And then, of course, you got to keep in mind who's leading, and that sometimes will decide whether or not someone comes out on this stage and addresses the crowd. But we'll be here throughout the evening. I'm sure you guys will have more questions later on, so just check in with us whenever you can.
David, if we can do a little bit of a scene setter where you are, obviously Ken Paxton has a lot of ties to Collin County. He built his political career there. We have some pictures coming in, of course, from Austin and some of the other events that are going on, the Cornyn Watch Party. Kind of set the scene about where you're located and, again, why that was potentially chosen as a spot for tonight, if you know.
Yeah, it's a hot spot for Republican voters. I think that's, not a surprise to anyone who knows anything about Collin County. I can tell you where we're at right now is the main room where there is media access, and then again behind me, that stage is where we will see people later on tonight. But for the most part, the people who are here right now mingling, having hors d'oeuvres and having drinks, these are your traditional voters, people who aren't necessarily elected officials or who are running any sort of campaign, nothing like that. Behind us, there is a different room that is a VIP room, and typically that's where elected officials who have endorsed, a candidate, tonight being Ken Paxton, or people who are with his campaign, are hanging out for several hours until, probably in that 8 o'clock hour, putting it closer to 9 o'clock when he will actually come out. So kind of keep it to themselves. For now, it's really just a whole lot of media members in here, and then, a few dozen people who have decided to come out who are your traditional voters, a lot of them from Collin County. One of them, who I was speaking with just a little bit ago, I was asking him, hey, you're a Ken Paxton supporter. What are you thinking for tonight? How do you feel? And he was like, man, on the way over here, my wife asked me the same question, and I just don't know. He's like, I could see it going either way. He's like, right now, I see it being a coin flip. So we'll see how the night goes, but, not a whole lot of races to take up our time outside of this. So this is definitely where a lot of the attention is focused. Most of the attention is focused tonight.
David Sanchendry, thank you so much. At Paxton HQ, we're starting to see some early votes come in. It is early,
right.
But this race could be determined by early voting. At the very least in Dallas County, we have John Cornyn with 23,122 votes, Paxton with 22,490 votes. That's 50% to 49%. That's important because we talked off here in March.
Right.
Cornyn had a 20,000 vote lead in Dallas County alone.
County, right. And that shows you the number of people who've not returned to the polls. But the young man that David Sanchendry talking about, he spoke with, he could be a political consultant tonight. It could very well be a coin flip. And what we see in Dallas County could be indicative of what's going to happen statewide. It could be that close. We'll have to see what happens in rural areas. I think urbans might fall into the same kind of pattern.
It's interesting that you bring up the rural vote because, path forward for Cornyn tonight definitely has to include a strong showing in places like Dallas, Tarrant County, Collin County, Travis, William, Bear, some of the biggest counties in Texas, but you cannot underestimate those smaller rural communities and the people that will turn out and cast their ballots there.
You can't. And real quick, Cornyn started being elected as a judge in Bear County, so right. San Antonio's home, right? And he's going to do well in the urban centers, but East Texas and Far West Texas might tell the story.
So as we look at the early voting numbers, we want to bring in our colleague Meredith Aldis from Fox 7 in Austin there at the Cornyn, I want to say watch party, was really a press conference, right? Meredith, tell me what's happening there.
Now, this is a seat that Cornyn has held for more
Yeah,
than 2
different
decades.
scene here. It's not necessarily a watch party. It's more of a press conference. It's just all press jammed in this room. There were so many members of the press, actually. They opened up the walls on this side just to get more people jam-packed in here. So, yeah, a big turnout as far as press-wise, and just anxiously waiting to see those results come in.
With the early voting, we're talking about turnout being very important. What's been the mood? I mean, I know you're around more media, like you said, than anything, but what's been the mood as you've been in Austin today and just leading up to this night?
During his time in office during both terms.
A lot of voters in Travis County and Williamson County. There were no real issues at the polls as far as we know. Wait times maybe max 15 minutes. So moving smoothly here in Travis and Williamson counties. Now, you talked about early voting, and if you do the county by county analysis from the early voting, it shows strong turnout in the urban areas. Several spots where Cornyn did better than Paxton in March. Now, that's obviously not a telltale sign. We'll see, as it comes in, but that is something to note. That would be a positive for Cornyn's campaign.
And hi, Meredith, it's Sean. And Mr. Cornyn certainly needs those positives. He knows what the polls have been showing. He has to feel like not only can he turn the corner in those urban areas, but rural areas also. Some of those areas that aren't big cities, aren't the suburbs immediately surrounding those, where he might have a chance to get some of the voters to come with him. Places that are more conservative, if you will.
Yes, for sure. So you've seen the advertisements talking about how he is still very much conservative and is voted 99% of the time with President Donald Trump, and that came out, on the heels of President Trump endorsing Ken Paxton. So yeah, he needs those votes in those suburban areas as well, you know, and I would think, if I'm just speculating, the rural areas would probably bring in some more Ken Paxton voters, not necessarily Cornyn in those areas.
Right.
Meredith, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Chris.
No, go ahead.
No, good. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say he would have to hope for some of those, but as we've been talking about, East Texas and West Texas will likely go with Paxton.
We'll see. Meredith, thank you so much on the ground. We're going to check back in with you soon. Guys, we're getting more early voting numbers.
Okay.
This is not a good sign for John Cornyn. Tarrant County early vote in Paxton 59%, Cornyn 41%. Tarrant County went +7 for Cornyn in March.
Right.
And so if that's the trend in these large urban areas, that's not going to be good for John Cornyn.
Now, Tarrant County is, if you will, more conservative than Dallas County.
Yes.
More MAGA than Dallas County.
And Cornyn still won it in March.
Yeah, and he won it in March. That's interesting, and I'd like to know the breakdown as to when those votes went. Did it happen after last Tuesday?
Right.
When Mr. Trump, Mr. President, gave his endorsement of Ken Paxton?
And one last thing really quickly about this particular race, and then I know we've got to move on and talk about some of the local races here in North Texas that we're watching. There are a lot of comparisons that are being drawn between the race between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn to the 2012 election when Ted Cruz came in and upset the race for Senate with David Dewhurst. And so there are a lot of parallels that people are making between these two races, one being a hardcore conservative that has a strong track record, but then the other being known for a little bit more of kind of fighting against the institution, if you will. So we can talk about that later, but I think that that's one of the really fascinating talking points about this race that we're watching between Paxton and Cornyn.
Right. The lieutenant governor in 2012, David Dewhurst, was much more of a statesman and more polished and more reserved in his conservatism than was then the firebrand Ted Cruz.
And had a lot more name recognition in the state at that time as well.
Let's move to a race that in North Texas has a lot of attention. I mean, we know the Senate race is a lot of money statewide, but a lot of attention. Texas 33 is a district that has been redrawn because of the redistricting. It's in efforts for Republicans to try to squeeze Democrats into one seat and then pick up a seat. Julie Johnson, the current seat holder of Texas 32, running for 33, which is technically Mark Vesey's current seat, and former Congressman Colin Allred running. You're looking at those numbers right there with 64%.
That's what it says, 64% approximately of the vote counted. Now, Colin Allred led in campaign funds, and usually you can follow the money, not always. What's interesting here is that you really don't have an incumbent.
Yeah.
I mean, Julie Johnson is currently sitting in Congress, but this district does not have an incumbent. And so it's very interesting to see what's happening with this lead, of a rather large lead of 10% at this point.
And a storyline that we were looking at, right, and we want to bring in our Amelia Jones, who's on the ground there in Dallas at the Allred campaign. Amelia, one storyline was, we know he benefited from Jasmine Crockett being on the ticket. She had been campaigning for him all runoff season. And with this lead, if it stands, it looks like some of those Crockett voters came back to vote. What are you seeing there at the Allred campaign?
It's interesting you mentioned that, Stephen, because when I spoke to someone with the Allred campaign, they said that they went door knocking this weekend and they really did see a lot of enthusiasm, whether people had already been to the polls and cast their vote for Allred, or with them saying, yes, we have a plan to vote on Tuesday. We are seeing people start to trickle in here at Union Hall. That's where Colin Allred is holding his watch party. His team tells me that he's going to speak around 7:45 after we get some solid numbers, since the polls are going to close, or already have closed, I should say, around 7:45 once we get some of those solid numbers here in Dallas County counted. As you mentioned, Stephen, District 33, it's now entirely anchored in Dallas County, and it is expected to be heavily favored Democrat in November. That means tonight this runoff could essentially decide who represents the seat in Congress. So let's talk about the candidates here. On one side, you have Colin Allred. Allred is a former congressman who represented North Texas before, unsuccessfully successfully running for U.S. Senate in 2024. He finished first in the March primary, as you mentioned, and has picked up support from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. On the other side is Julie Johnson, a current Congresswoman who succeeded Allred in the old 32nd District. And she has gained support from several top Democrats, including State Representative and U.S. Senate candidate James Tallarico, who joined in on her campaign trail. Allred wholeheartedly supported Johnson when she ran for his old seat, but now the race, it's become hotly contested. Allred has criticized Johnson over stock trades involving a company with ties to immigration, which Johnson says is misleading, and the trades were handled by independent money managers, then sold when she became aware of them. Johnson, meanwhile, has attacked Allred over past immigration votes, accusing him of moving right while running statewide. Allred says those votes came during a different political moment under the Biden administration. These topics are important as District 33 is now a majority-minority district with a large Latino population. Allred's team told me this morning that he feels good going into tonight. I asked them again, and they said yes, he's feeling very enthusiastic, and he is expected to address his supporters around 7:45. The Julie Johnson campaign, they told me she is not holding her own watch party, but she is expected to join Attorney General Democrat candidate Nathan Johnson's watch party, which is nearby here in downtown Dallas. For now, guys, back to you.
Amelia, thank you. We'll come back to you when Colin Allred takes the podium. I mean, guys, that lead, and we talked about, I mean, unless there's a big turnout for early voting in Dallas County, which I don't know if y'all were driving around, did you see lines or a big turnout? It seems like this race may be soon called for the former Congressman Colin Allred.
Yeah, and, you know, he said earlier to Amelia, his people telling Amelia how they felt very good. You know, the technology is such now, you pretty much have an idea how it's going before it's gone. And so be interesting to see what the final numbers are. That could be a big amount to close and overcome 10% at this time.
And with this being a runoff election, and we're talking about early voting and then, you know, not seeing a lot of lines per se at the polls today, this is typically a pretty low turnout election, right? The people that are going out to the polls are the ardent supporters that feel strongly one way or another, or they're trying to back a particular candidate. And as silly as it sounds, but it is also right after Memorial Day. This is right on the heels of a holiday, and that is a little bit rare as well. So you can't help but wonder if that made an impact on people not getting out to vote today.
And there can be some voter fatigue. We don't want to forget that. We just had city council elections. We just had certain cities involved in the DART elections. All of that wearing on the voters, and now runoffs. So important, though, that you go vote, because the people that you send to the State House or to Congress, they, in fact, write the bills that shape our lives.
Absolutely.
And so it's so important.
We want you guys to interact with us, too. Well, I'm going to let you make your point. We have a poll up. What race are you looking at more closely? I mean, I think mine, selfishly, is the Paxton Cornyn. But Paxton Cornyn, the AG race, Mace Middleton versus Congressman Chip Roy, or the race that we're talking about, former Congressman Colin Allred, current Congresswoman Julie Johnson. Casey.
I mean, I think that the national race clearly has the most implications, and a lot of people have been watching this all over the country. Also, just the fact that how much money has been spent on this. It's on track to become the most expensive U.S. Senate race in American history.
Not only
that's
that,
incredible.
But this race has divided the party. Listen, first of all, Ken Paxton should open the doors to Wesley Hunt and say, what do you want to do for me? Because he's the reason he's going to win this. Beyond that, this race has divided the Republican Party. And I say that you have the leadership of the party last week, after the president comes out and throws his endorsement to Ken Paxton. You have the leadership of the party saying, we can't speak for one man, or what the president says we can't speak for. It's clear the senators did not want Ken Paxton.
Right.
And so this is a rift that may not heal easily.
And you have to look at, we talk about this in a bubble, but a lot of viewers don't, eat, breathe, and sleep this every day. And so some of this is new information to them. But, Texas should not be in play, right? Like if you're really looking at politics. And so you call them establishment, whatever you want to call them, they don't want to waste money in Texas fighting James Tallarico if their candidate, in their opinion, is a weaker candidate, a more vulnerable candidate. Is Ken Paxton with his baggage. But the president of the United States has a lot of baggage. and he survives. And Ken Paxton was impeached by Republicans. He survived that. So
he has survived everything that's come at him. The idea that the FBI investigation was looming over him and federal prison time looming over him and indicted and looming over him, and he survives all of that. And so, but still, the Republican Party will have to bring at least $100 million plus to Texas.
And what state does that money get pulled from?
It gets pulled from Maine. It gets pulled from Ohio. It gets pulled from the Carolinas. Every place where there's some challenges, if they want this seat and they want to keep this seat in Texas. They don't want to see, we haven't had a Democrat elected at large in 3.5 decades, maybe.
94.
So they don't want that to change now.
One race that's off the radar. I'm just mentioning it because it was something we were talking about in March. Texas 18, another race where they're trying to squeeze Democrats, where the Republicans are trying to force Democrats into one seat. Christian Menifee, who currently holds the seat.
That's Harris County, Houston, Texas 18.
So I'm seeing the Harris County early vote number is not on the screen, but the Harris County early vote number, Christian Menifee 70%, Al Green 30%. Harris County makes up almost 75% of that district.
And if those numbers, if that's right,
that's
so a couple of things here. Al Green, not in many ways not unlike John Cornyn, long time under the dome, right? Been there forever. Menifee, new blood, who is young and held a spot in the county, has been challenged by this Attorney General's office and the state leadership, and maybe they're sending the same kind of message.
So for the Texas GOP Senate runoff, the latest University of Houston poll showed that the voters were most concerned still with immigration and border security. 33% of them saying that was the top issue for Republicans as they headed to the polls. Number two, inflation and the cost of living. About 25% of people polled were concerned about that. Number three, election integrity. As well. Then it was jobs and the economy, Second Amendment rights, rounding out number five, and then violent crime, making up about 2% of that. So immigration and border security, I was personally a little surprised to see that. I know that is important, particularly with Republicans, but since President Trump has resumed his second term.
It's not talked about as much.
Right. We definitely have shut the border down to a degree. We're not seeing the amount of illegal traffic crossing that we once did, but people are still talking about it. People are still concerned about it here in Texas.
Especially in the primary standpoint. It's important to the base,
right? The
things that they want their candidates to focus on.
And we keep hearing those same drum beats still, because that's what's important. And remember, Ken Paxton has touted his lawsuits against the Biden administration. He brags about the fact, boasts about the fact he's sued them 100 times plus. He represents all of those things that MAGA stands for. And in Texas, I'm kind of surprised at the numbers that we're seeing right now. I thought it would be closer than that.
So we have 33% reporting Ken Paxton with 62%, John Cornyn with 38%. At the end of every rally that I've seen from the Paxton campaign, he says he wants to send a retirement party for John Cornyn. If it's lopsided like this,
right?
I mean, I'm interested to see what the ripple effect will be. I mean, Democrats they are chomping at the bit now. If this is what the result is going to be, if this is who they're facing in November. Now, Democrats still have an uphill battle. Let's not be in la-la land about that. It's still Texas. But, Democrats like Jasmine Crockett have said Texas isn't a red state, it's a non-voting state. There's a large population of registered voters, white, black, Hispanic, whatever, that just don't come to vote. And so with the economy being a priority for some voters, will that drive numbers that we have not seen in November is the question.
I don't know. What I can tell you is that the attacks have already started on James Tallarico.
Yeah.
And the low T Tallarico, he's too weak for Texas campaign.
He's a vegan.
That rolled out, yeah. All of that has already started. And so the Democrats, Tallarico himself, and then the DNC are going to have to begin to pour money in, because the ads really won't stop between now and November. I think the Republicans are going to try to take advantage of this and continue to hammer James Tallarico for being weak, for being way too moderate, for being too soft on crime, all of those issues that MAGA stands against. I don't think I mean, I think Mr. Cornyn has to get every vote the rest of the night to overcome.
And look at this.
Lead.
So this is these are just the early voting numbers just in North Texas, right? So Dallas County, we already talked about it. Cornyn had a slight lead over Paxton, right? In Tarrant County, Paxton's leading. In Collin County, his home county, which is expected
that
Paxton is leading. Denton County, Paxton is leading. And in Harris County, Paxton's leading big. So we're gonna have a lot. We got a lot more time.
Yeah, but that's the surprise. Harris County is a surprise to me that Ken Paxton would be leading so big there in Harris County. I say that because even Republicans there have been much more moderate over time, and so it's interesting.
Okay, we're just 30 minutes in, guys. We are just getting started, but the clouds are starting to clear up, and it looks like we're about to see what this picture is up and down the ballot. So hang tight with us. We'll be right back. Runoff election night is really shaping up, and it's moving pretty fast, as we expected. I didn't plan to be hanging out with you guys biting my nails long.
Well, I did. I love this, by the way. It feels like we were just doing this in March, so it's nice to be back here with you. But yeah, some of these early returns we're pretty surprised about, talking about this when we go off of air, and then as our other reporters are checking in, not expecting the numbers that we've seen out of Houston, Harris County specific.
Harris County has been the biggest surprise to me, and I don't want to waste time. Let's get to our friend Mark Jones from Rice University joining us from Houston. Mark, I mean, 63 to 37 right now, swinging for Paxton. It's what, 40% reporting. What does this tell you? Is it Cornyn voters didn't show up, or did Paxton get people to show up more?
Well, I think it's a combination. After President Trump's endorsement of Ken Paxton last Tuesday, that took the wind out of the Cornyn campaign sails and also provided a boost to Paxton, both in terms of undecided voters shifting to him, but also some voters who wanted to vote for him, but were at least open to the Cornyn argument that Paxton could be a liability in November. The president's endorsement signals that he doesn't believe that's the case. And I think once the Cornyn campaign realized it didn't have much of a hope, many of his voters probably stayed home today instead of turning out to vote.
Mark, this is Casey. I just was curious. We talked about this at the top of the hour. Lots of folks, I think yourself included, kind of comparing what we're seeing with Paxton and Cornyn to Cruz Dewhurst in 2012.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some similarities. I think the biggest difference is, though, one, Ken Paxton has a host of liabilities and dirty laundry that make him a serious threat to Republicans' ability to keep this seat in the fall. That wasn't the case in 2012 when Republicans were very confident they were going to win. The other is the intervention of Donald Trump in this race on the behalf of Ken Paxton that really steered things. He probably, as these results are showing, he didn't need to put his thumb on the scale. This result was going to go Paxton's way, but the margin, I think, can be attributed in part to Donald Trump.
Sean Rabb, Mark, it looks like the majority of voters in the Democrat Party, at least those who've turned out today in this runoff and over the last week, don't really care about the moral or ethical issues or the baggage of Ken Paxton. They are more loyal to the president, loyal to the MAGA theme.
Well, no, I think a large portion of Republican primary voters either don't believe the attacks on Ken Paxton or they accept them, but they like what Paxton has done in terms of using the Office of Attorney General to push forward conservative issues at the federal level, fighting Joe Biden, at the state level, helping Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and at the local level, fighting blue cities and counties like Houston, Dallas, Austin, Travis County.
Wow. Mark, some of the establishment Republicans, I mean, they tried to hold their tongue as much as they could, but were pretty upset when President Trump jumped in this race on the second day of early voting. If the results stay how they are, and it looks like it will, if Ken Paxton is the nominee, is that going to create more tension in Washington for the president and the current senators?
Oh, without question. So we now have three senators, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, and John Cornyn of Texas, who Donald Trump has explicitly pushed out of office or kept from running for re-election. If you add to that Mitch McConnell, the always wild card Rand Paul, both from Kentucky, and Lisa Murkowski, who's never been a strong supporter of the president, he now no longer has a functioning majority in the U.S. Senate on the Republican side to push forward anything he wants. Now, that doesn't mean that conservative policies and bills won't pass, but it now means that the president isn't going to get anything he wants out of the Senate. Many of these senators have no real reason to support him between now and January when their term ends.
Mark, who has the best standing chance when it comes to facing James Tallarico in the general election? Cornyn or Paxton, do you think?
Well, I think it would be Cornyn, and we have to sort of develop a hypothetical. That is, imagine Democrats spending $150 million to tell independent, moderate Republican, and conservative Democratic voters all the negative things they can about John Cornyn and all the negative things they can say about Ken Paxton. I think we would all agree that there are far more negative things that they can use against Ken Paxton in a very targeted way, whether it's the serial adultery, the mortgage fraud, the securities fraud, the retaliation against whistleblowers, the 7,000% increase in his net income, all ads, by the way, that were launched by the Republican Senate groups that will now have to be supporting Ken Paxton starting tomorrow morning.
And how much does that support that has to go to Ken Paxton now impact Republicans playing out in other parts of the country, Maine, Ohio, the Carolinas, those places where that money could go and where they would want some of that money to go?
Well, Texas is, this cycle will be the most expensive campaign site in the entire country. Our media market, with 20 media markets, including 2 of the top 10 in Dallas and Houston, is very expensive. So the money that they spend here on just, say, a couple of metro areas could be used to cover the estates of Alaska, New Hampshire, Iowa, Michigan, and Maine combined. So a lot of Republican money that would go to either support embattled Republican incumbents like Susan Collins from up in Maine, or to try to flip Democratic-held seats like in Michigan, now will have to come down to try to bolster Ken Paxton with no real guarantee that he'll actually beat James Tallarico in November.
Wow, that's big.
Mark Jones, thank you so much. We're going to come back to you because I want to ask you about that Texas 18 race with Christian Menifee. I'm wondering, guys, is it just a changing of the guard? I know Paxton Cornyn could be apples to oranges to Green, Menifee, but we'll talk about it later. I just, that's really interesting to me, seeing this Cornyn Paxton race and then seeing a smaller race, albeit in the Houston area, but two seismic shifts for both parties.
Right, and let's just put this out there right now. Al Green has not been afraid to challenge the president, has not been afraid to bring impeachment articles against the, has not been afraid to be tossed out of
State of the Union, or
the State of the Union, because he's standing his ground, speaking his voice. It's not like he's there not being the voice of the people in Texas 18. So,
and you see there the results 69% to 31%. I mean, that's a huge. I mean, Sean, you could give some more context to this. I mean, Harris County, they went a while without someone sitting in that seat because former Mayor Sylvester Turner passed away. Kristen Menifee gets in, then he's on the ballot again, then he's on the ballot again. And then now because of redistricting, we have this situation.
Yeah, and it's a new district. That matters a lot. The way it's redrawn kind of changes the dynamics, the demographics, changes some of those folk who were certain to vote for Al Green.
One thing, sorry to cut you off there, one thing that we should mention that's not probably going to make a difference because of that widespread there, but that also encompasses Fort Bend County. And the only voting irregularity that we have heard about today in the state of Texas has been down in Fort Bend County. For a couple of hours, apparently there was an issue with some of the voters, not the machines themselves, but I guess the way the voters were registered. And so there was a push to try and keep the polls open a little bit later in Fort Bend County. I don't know if that was the case or not, but they were trying to push for a little bit of extra time for people that may have gotten caught up in it. But with a spread that large, probably wouldn't make a difference.
Fort Bend County would have made the difference alone there. That's a very large spread, and I think we have to consider who those voters are in Harris County, who those voters are in Texas 18. Are many of them, some of them younger? That makes a difference.
Let's stay with the Democrats. Let's take a check in on the Texas Attorney General's race. We've talked a lot about the Republicans because a lot of money has been spent on that side.
Yeah.
Some lesser known candidates, but at least one is known here in North Texas because he's a state senator. You're looking
about Nathan Johnson.
Nathan Johnson with 60% of the vote. Joe Jaworski, 40% of the vote.
Okay, so Jaworski, twice, I believe, mayor of Galveston, 4 years ago, ran for Attorney General on the Democrat Party, was unsuccessful then, and is going to be, it appears, unsuccessful again tonight. Nathan Johnson, he's been powerful in the legislature. He had good commercials that rolled out. I love the commercial he had about, we've got your order, we're making a change. But those kind of things where he really didn't talk negatively about his opponent, but they resonate with people. And, Johnson's been busy crisscrossing the state.
And then, of course, we talk about Mays Middleton and how much money of his own money that he has put into this race on the Republican side. Really someone that came out with a lot of name recognition because of the advertising, frankly.
And I know Mays Middleton is leading statewide. We're going to get those numbers up, but I know at last check he was leading statewide for the Republican race. And the biggest critique against him, primarily from Chip Roy, is that Mays Middleton has never tried never been before a judge. And so, do you want your state top cop to not have that type of experience?
Right. His experience has been managing the oil and gas company that belonged to his father, that his father started before the father passed away. So he, as an only child, inherits all of that, and he's been running that. In 2013, he stepped into the political arena in the state, putting a lot of his money into conservative causes and behind conservative candidates to get them elected, and then get his own self elected.
His political brand, the hard right Trump-aligned candidate in the Republican Attorney General runoff against Roy. His own framing very direct, saying that Texas needs an Attorney General who will use the office to back President Trump's America First agenda.
And Mr. Roy, the congressman, saying, "Hey, I'm an independent conservative. I drive a hard bargain." That's what you ought to want, somebody who thinks for themselves. But right now, the die is cast for MAGA candidates in our state.
And in addition to being a Republican congressman from the 21st District, you also have Chip Roy, who has worked inside of the AG's office. He was the first assistant Attorney General of Texas under Ken Paxton. So he has experience inside that office, and some would argue that that's mighty important.
Of course it is, but a lot of voters might not know that or might not think it's important. I mean, the ads, there were so many of them. If you saw them and believed them, then you were in love with him because he is a MAGA man. Although he tells you that's my name, MAGA Mays Middleton.
He spent money for that name rec, and it worked. Yeah.
But does it work? But here's what just fascinates me about the whole political cycle in general.
Okay.
Is it enough to make people not care to vote someone into office who has no experience in a courtroom, trying a case in a courtroom, when the job of Attorney General of the state of Texas is the top law enforcement official in the state? To me, that seems really strange. Hey, Stephen, why don't you be a TV reporter? But, oh, you've never been on TV before? You've never studied journalism? It just seems a little strange.
Except the Attorney General, most of the time, is not in the courtroom.
Sure. But to have a working knowledge of it, one would think is pretty important.
Well, yeah. Management, yeah.
sure.
You should know the law. But I'm telling you what it looks like right now, guys. This is what it looks like. It looks like if you are on one side, one message, that's
all people care about.
Yeah, it's taking you across the finish line.
And if you put in the context of, okay, let's look at the top of the ticket, the U.S. Senate race, someone would say 10, 15, 20 years ago, Ken Paxton would not even have been in this position of making it to a runoff. And so the politics are just different now. I mean, that's really what
They
it
are.
is.
And while some of the leadership in the state might not have agreed with the things Ken Paxton had done, they were silent rather than speaking out against him.
One of the neat things about doing the streaming coverage is we do want input from those of you who are watching us. You see the poll up at the bottom of your screen. Do you think that political ads change people's mind? And a resounding 93% are saying no at the present time, and only 7% say that those ads that have been in our ears like a little gnat.
You can't tell me that people knew about MAGA Mays Middleton before you heard MAGA Mays Middleton. I mean, people who cover him, sure, and not casting down on Mays Middleton at all.
No.
But just saying statewide, Texas is a hard state to campaign in, and you got to have money to do it. He got that name recognition, and I mean, depending on what turnout looks like, if he's going up against Dallas County Senator Nathan Johnson, how does he fight that?
Yeah. Stop for a minute.
You think the people are lying?
They're not giving us. I want to test the veracity of those answers.
They're telling a fib, huh?
Listen, if it didn't matter, why would there be such an influx of negative ads with half-truths? And people don't research those. They don't fact-check. They believe what they are told repeatedly. And clearly, when you have the money to flood TV with the same commercial over and over and over and over again, it works. People remember your name.
Fox4News.com/connect, and you see that the numbers are changing a little bit there. So I do want to point that out because it kind of gets lost in the bottom there. So now 29% are thinking that the political ads do have some kind of a decision-making factor for them. So we have another question. What was the other question?
The other question was, what race do you care about more? And that was leading. It was Cornyn, Paxton, and then I believe the AG race on the Republican side was second. Guys, and as you see those results right there, my question to you: how boastful, how much are we going to see from President Trump tomorrow? Oh, if this result is what it is, and it looks like it will be,
I think we're going to see a lot. I think we'll hear a lot from Mr. Trump. He is careful about who he endorses because he wants to be able to say. You'll recall in the March primary, there was a candidate from Texas who he endorsed right across in Tarrant County who didn't win, and it was like, I don't know who that person is.
Yep.
He doesn't want the negative, and so I think we'll hear a lot about this. Remember, in the last days, he ultimately said Cornyn was not loyal to him. And
that's crazy because, I mean, let's talk about it, guys.
I was going to say, I thought John Cornyn was pretty loyal to
Cornyn voted against President Trump once. And we talked off camera about this. It was a gun bill during the Biden administration.
After Uvalde, let's set the record
here. The context, yeah.
Yeah.
And did that bill dramatically impact gun owners?
No.
And Paxton was hitting them on that at campaign rallies. And clearly it stuck with some voters. And then, of course, yes, the President Trump endorsement makes a difference. But I just think that the narrative of he wasn't loyal to me, some people would say John Cornyn has been super loyal as of late, of course, wanting the endorsement.
Right.
I'm interested to see how John Cornyn finishes his term. Will his votes change? Will he be more outspoken?
Oh, that's a good point.
Well,
I've never thought about that
If you
before.
listen to what Mark Jones said, Mark Jones suggested his vote would change because he said now the president no longer has this powerful block, this majority block in the Senate, as he named him along with a handful of others who have aught, if you will, with the president.
And John Cornyn isn't necessarily beholden to President Trump anymore after not getting his
My
endorsement.
time's up in January. Why should I continue if, you let me down here at the last minute? As I read somewhere today, some senator said he stabbed him in the back, And so why would there be this feeling I must still be 100% in your corner?
We're being told that Ken Paxton is going to talk earlier than expected.
Of course he is.
So we should see that probably around the 8 o'clock hour, possibly, not 9 o'clock. Like we said, we thought the early vote was going to really tell us what this was. Clearly, this is a unique election where there was more runoff turnout than past runoff elections with so much money, with so much ads, with so much national attention. We got national, media in Collin County at Paxton and in Austin at Cornyn for a reason, because people are really interested in this race.
Right. This is marquee, call it what you want, the heavyweight card on the fight on the card, whatever you want to call it. It has taken up all of the attention and literally $135+ million in the country as people have watched this come to pass.
A lot of happy faces in that room. On the right-hand side of your screen, you are taking a live look at pictures from Ken Paxton's watch party, which is here in North Texas, happening up in Collin County. Our own David Santendry is there, and he has been checking in with the stakeholders on the ground there. But as the camera pans the room, it is filling up a little bit more, and you can bet that that is a pretty excited crowd if things are going to turn out the way it appears they may in the early goings of this.
I would be a little more confident in saying it tonight. It's a done deal. It is a done deal.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
Yeah, hold me to it.
We're going to get you to sign this paperwork here and make it
Before we go to break, the Associated Press has called Texas 18 for Christian Menifee, defeating Al Green, longtime congressman in Houston. So that's going to be a big change down there. All right, we're going to take a little break. I'm going to get some water because I've been talking a while.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back. We're going to have speeches, more results. Stay with us. right, it's a race that everyone in the country is watching. The Texas Senate race. On your left, you see the Paxton Watch Party, and on the right, it's more of a press conference set up for incumbent Senator John Cornyn. Cornyn was seeking a 5th term in office. No Texan has ever done that in the U.S. Senate, and it looks like that streak will continue. Guys, I'm shocked about the lopsidedness of the numbers. I'm not shocked so much that Paxton is about to be the nominee, but the spread is, that threw me off.
I thought it would be closer. I really thought it would be closer. In fact, as I mentioned in the break, I thought what we saw in Dallas County might be more indicative of what we see across the state, a close race. Not so. Places where Mr. Cornyn had substantial leads in the March primary, little or no lead now in some of those same counties.
Well, that's the whole reason why we're here tonight, right? There was a runoff because back in March, no one was able to clear the threshold to get enough votes. And we all were, at the time, remember, with the analyst and others saying that that was a little surprising to some of us. I mean, you know, these are both people that have a lot of name recognition in the state of Texas. You have the Attorney General, but also John Cornyn has been in the Senate forever, and people know him, not just in Texas, but elsewhere. So the fact that he really was in this political fight for his life was really rather fascinating, because a lot of people would think someone who has so much experience under their belt that he would be a shoo-in.
Well, a couple of things real quick. Last legislative session, the state lawmakers in our great state passed a bill that would allow them to go after a senator who did not represent the state the way state lawmakers felt they should be represented, talking about John Cornyn. Then, as we rolled around to this election cycle, here's Wesley Hunt, who throws his hat into the ring. So you have 3 men, all of them taking pictures and video with the president, all of them saying they're the president's best friend, all of them say, vying for his support and endorsement, and Wesley Hunt is the fly in the political ointment. We certainly know that Paxton owes this in a great large percentage to Wesley Hunt.
I want you guys to take a look. Tony Busby, a well-known attorney in the Houston area, but he also happened to be Ken Paxton's impeachment lawyer, said, call it. Paxton
already did.
I mean, the race is about to be called. And then there's also some reaction happening from the Senate Republican, the National Senate Republican Campaign Committee.
Okay.
Their comms person tweeted, a state President Trump won by nearly 14 points isn't going to elect James Tallarico, a radical leftist who thinks God is non-binary. The interesting thing in this is they did not mention Ken Paxton.
And I wonder if that's going to be a theme that we see as they carry out with their ads going forward, just to attack Tallarico and not really promote Ken Paxton in their ads. We'll see.
You think the money's going to be there, but you don't think that it's going to be super cozy and kumbaya for the Republicans, at least that the campaign arm of the Senate Republicans?
You've got the Senate Republicans who came out against him before the primary, if you remember. So the party is divided in this race because of Mr. Paxton.
A little peek behind the curtain right now. It's we're closing in on 8 o'clock Central Time. We're hearing some information from our reporters, our intrepid staff on the ground, that Colin Allred may be speaking right around 8 o'clock or so. Again, these are not hard and fast times here. And then at 8:15, we had heard that Cornyn could potentially be coming out and addressing his supporters. And then we're hearing that Ken Paxton could be talking around 8:30. So again, these are not set in stone. We don't have official press releases on that. That's just what our folks on the ground are hearing at these particular events.
And we don't have updated numbers yet, still with 64% or so of the vote in.
Hasn't changed,
Allred up 55 to 45% over Julie Johnson.
Congresswoman Julie Johnson would need a day of surge, right? She would need a lot of people who turned out today.
Yes.
And, you know, Democrats, both sides, push early voting. You have multiple days to vote. Don't just wait until the last day. But we do have to wait and see what these day of votes will be in a race like this where it's only the Dallas County votes. I mean, you're looking at 7,000 votes and 5,000 votes. And so we're awaiting Colin Allred to get up there. But it looks like this lead will hold in this race.
If Allred and the people that he's huddling with, if they felt like the lead would not hold, he wouldn't be speaking so soon.
And again, this is a district that was heavily impacted by the congressional redistricting with hopes of picking up additional GOP seats. That was something President Trump asked Governor Abbott to do, and there was a lot of focus on that with those special legislative sessions. You had the Democrats that fled the state of Texas and broke quorum and went out to California and to Illinois and had different delegations over the whole notion of redrawing the lines here in the state of Texas. And no doubt about it, House District 33 here in the Lone Star State was impacted greatly.
And over on the, I mean, we don't have to put it up, but 32, where Julie Johnson currently represents, that is going to possibly become a red seat. Jay Scarborough winning the runoff. You got something?
I do.
Your phone been dinging.
Yeah.
So we're going to let him cook.
So some political consultants I know tell me, quote, they are blown away by the Al Green lead, blown away by the numbers in the Al Green TX18 out of Houston, Harris County. Greg Abbott posed 7 minutes ago, congratulations, Ken Paxton, on the resounding victory. Next, he will destroy Tallarico and become the next U.S. Senator from the state of Texas.
Now, the question is, Governor Abbott was asked last week who he voted for in this race.
Yes.
And he said, I'm going to keep that private, but said everyone else that he was voting for. But now he can just seem like, hey, I'm supporting the nominee.
Right. And that's kind of what he does on sometimes thorny issues.
There you see that tweet there from Governor Greg Abbott. I mean, the political knives are about to come out for Tallarico, and I'm sure he's prepared for that. He's having an event tomorrow in Houston, I believe, that'll be his first real response to, okay, now I know who I'm facing. What does James Tallarico have to do now to kind of snatch the conversation back to Democrats' momentum of the economy is not good, gas prices are high, we're still at this war? Like, how does he change the narrative?
Well, he's going to have to speak loudly, and he's going to have to speak often. He's going to have to be firm in what he says. He cannot be timid, because this is a moment where he will be under attack like nothing he encountered before in his brief political career, right? And so they're coming after him. They're already coming. The boldness, if you will, to run
the ads
against the person that you might run against even before you win. So they are coming after him. I think he's got to show the stark differences, which, he's Democrat and Republican, sure. But what are the things that I am talking about that resonates with all of the voters or a majority of the voters?
Affordability's got to be right up there.
Right. But I need you to give me more than just saying the word.
That's
I need
true.
some
Agreed.
substance with it.
Agreed.
What do you think, Casey? I mean, affordability, yes, but I mean, do you think Democrats had to learn from their mistakes in the last election, right, of talking about other things, and it came back to the economy?
Right.
Talked about the economy, and so what are their unique ways to keep that on the forefront of Americans' mind? It's a long time between May and November. We got baseball season. We got a lot, you know what I'm saying? A lot. We got the World Cup. A lot of stuff, a lot of distractions are going to happen. After tonight, people are going to start tuning out politics. Let's be in a way, because of the fatigue, because of just everything that's been in their face. They're going to start tuning things out. So how do Democrats keep that on the forefront when it matters most as we get into the fall is the biggest question.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that if gas prices continue to be sky high, people continue to go to the grocery stores and feel like they just, can't make ends meet with their families. I mean, that when I say affordability, it isn't just a word, but it is impacting virtually every single corner of people's lives. I mean, I know for sure that when I'm out with friends in social settings, just talking to average citizens, people talk about how expensive school is, how much insurance costs, what it's costing you to go to the grocery store. And I think that if you can seize on the anger that people have with feeling like President Trump did not keep up his promises in the affordability side of it, and like to blame the high prices and the inflation all on President Biden. But I think that if the Democrats are able to successfully seize on some of that anger that will still no doubt be present ahead of the general, then they might have a chance to change some seats.
And so that's what I mean. He can't just say affordability. He's got to articulate the issues as they are, and not only say, here's the problem, but here's an answer to the problem that I have Here's what I'm going to do in the Senate that hasn't been done. And I'm going to fight to hold the line. I'm going to raise my voice. Blah. That has to be said. Remember, Beto O'Rourke, and then before Beto O'Rourke, Ron Kirk came close. The Democrats have come close twice for this seat. They've come close. Well, the other was Ted Cruz. They've come close, but they haven't been able to secure it. And this is a chance they haven't had since the 90s and may not have again for a while. We'll see.
Guys, the Associated Press has called the Texas Senate race officially for Ken Paxton. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton will be the nominee for the Republican Party, officially facing off against James Talarico on the Democratic side. I mean, those numbers are those numbers.
Right. It's almost 2-1. It's almost there, almost 2-1. And so we are surprised, but there's no doubt people said no to John Cornyn. They believed Ken Paxton, but then I really believe, as Matt Wilson told you on yesterday, Stephen Dial, President Trump's endorsement was going to make it an even bigger difference. And that's what we're seeing happen tonight.
What about the fact that this endorsement came during the early voting
that's
cycle?
Why it's so
it was
interesting
really
because I want to see, when was the uptick and was it due to we were talking in the newsroom a couple of days ago of, the beginning of early voting. Sometimes the beginning of early voting does start slow for any race and then ticks up as people say, oh, it's voting time. But the numbers went up after Tuesday. We started seeing the numbers get bigger and double.
So it was a week ago today.
Yeah.
It was a week ago today.
Right.
And early voting only started last Monday.
Yeah.
And so for the many months, if you will, the 2 months between the March primary and now, where they were vying for Mr. Trump's endorsement, where all the commercials were coming out, he was sitting back, letting it stew, letting them have the political fight, if you will, run the political race, have the political battle, making up his mind whether he was going to get in. He said he was going to endorse, but he held on to who and when. And he made that decision last week.
I think this can't be understated. Just driving home, John Cornyn has spent roughly $90 million. Just think of that. $90 million on this race. And tonight, it appears that is over for
Thank you
Senator
for bringing
John Cornyn.
that up. One of his powerful resources has been his ability to raise money. He's raised over $400 million since he's been in the Senate.
He used to be the whip for the Senate majority. I mean, he's had, and that's why the establishment, if you want to call it that, that's why these leaders have been backing Cornyn, the ones that are currently still in office.
I can't see him being motivated to raise that kind of money, to call up his list of donors and ask them to support the party and other candidates now that he's been effectively turned out.
Right, $10.5 million on the pro-Paxton side in the final stretch fundraising tallies there. So, I mean, really, apples and oranges, frankly, $90 million versus $10.5 million, but just an incredible amount of money spent on this race. And forgive me, there's a part of me, just as a John Q. citizen, that thinks, what if we took that money and put it into the school voucher program, or you put it into some other, assistance for the public and gave that money back to the people instead of spending so much? That's just to get the job.
Well,
it's insane.
Yeah. That's a very noble thought on your part. We left that some years ago.
I know we did.
Right. Here's the other thing that's important to mention, because John Cornyn did spend $90 million. Then there's the PAC money and all that. Paxton spent about $10.5 million. But Paxton had the ability as Attorney General to file lawsuit after lawsuit.
I mean, every day we get a press release.
Yeah, and that got his name mentioned on media reporting, just in day of news reporting, that kept his name out there without him having to spend money for that kind of exposure, that publicity, because he was the state's Attorney General. Texas is the most powerful state. When it comes to the Attorney General, it is the most powerful state in the union, okay? It carries weight, and oftentimes, lawsuits filed here, other states join with the state Attorney General here in Texas in those matters. So he had a pulpit, if you will, a bully pulpit. He had a bullhorn, political bullhorn, legally through his office that allowed him to get publicity each and every time he brought these lawsuits against pharma or toothpaste companies or anyone else.
I want you guys, what you're seeing on the screen, other than our great Sean Rabb and now me, but the results, and then the little box you're seeing, the Paxton campaign. They're getting everything set. This is the moment that when you're a reporter in the field, you're like, okay, when are they about to talk? When are they about to talk? The camera just zoomed out, but I believe in the middle of the stage is Abraham George. I could be wrong, but that's the Texas GOP chairman. Again, I could be wrong. We'll have to wait for that to zoom in again.
I would fully expect him to be there.
But I was told there are going to be multiple elected officials at the Paxton watch party if he were to be successful. Clearly he is. That race has been called. And so we're setting the scene as we're watching them assemble and get ready. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Ken Paxton, who's going to be the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, Colin Allred, who may be the new nominee, Democratic nominee for the newly drawn Texas 33, and much more. We'll be right back. The race has been called in the Republican primary for Texas Senate. Attorney General Ken Paxton defeating four-term incumbent Senator John Cornyn, and we're getting instant reaction via social media from the Democratic nominee, James Tallarico, the state representative out of Round Rock. He says, I want to thank Senator John Cornyn for his years representing our state. We don't agree on everything, but we both still believe in public service. To Senator Cornyn supporters, you have a place in our campaign. How strategic is that post, Sean Rapp?
I think it's a very smart move right now while emotions are raw, and certainly Cornyn's supporters are disappointed. They obviously don't like Ken Paxton, and he's saying, hey, I'm an alternative. If you don't want to go with the Attorney General who is now going to represent your party, I'm the alternative. Come on over here and help us win
But will
in
enough
November.
people do that? Will enough people go across the line just for that one race?
Still a smart move. No, they won't. Okay, but it's a good move on his part.
Casey Stegall, the optics, I mean, everything is so instant that we get now. You know, Governor Abbott has reacted. A lot of people congratulating Ken Paxton now. James Tallarico, who's about to be the target for Republicans. I mean, people are going to put him in national Democratic attack ads, not just in Texas. The response from James Tallarico, your take?
Well, I just think that it's really interesting, as we were talking about this in the commercial break, that Tallarico has already responded. You know, in this day and age, when we carry around one of these things, a little mini computer, you can get information in real time. The old school way that Sean and I used to cover these elections are kind of like what we have now. You have a crew that's stationed at the particular event where the candidate is going to post up, and then everyone is sort of waiting with bated breath till someone comes out to the podium, or you can get a leak from one of the staffers. You know, now it's just right here in the palm of your hands, and I think that it is also smart, kind of agreeing with Rab here, to go ahead and try and capture some of those voters that did not see things go their way tonight, that they were throwing their support behind Cornyn, not happy about Paxton. So, hey, come on over here. There's a place for you here.
Different wording from the Democrat Senate Campaign Committee. Their statement says, while Republicans are facing their nightmare scenario, tonight Democrats are one step closer to winning a Senate majority, and in November, Texas will send James Tallarico to the Senate. Important to note, Democrats have not won statewide in Texas since the mid-90s.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the Texas Democratic Party put out a statement basically saying Paxton has used his office for decades to abuse power.
Let's take a listen in.
Tonight,
John Cornyn.
We've come up short in this primary runoff. You know, a few years ago, I had a friend of mine say, you know what makes God laugh? He said, when we make plans. I've spent most of my time in the Senate building the Republican Party in Texas and in the U.S. Senate, and I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election. I've said throughout this race that I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it. Tonight I'm joined up here by three women who mean everything to me, and without whom I never would have enjoyed the incredible ride and public service career that I've had for many, many years. Of course, my wife Sandy, of 46 years and counting, and then our daughters Danley and Haley, of whom I'm enormously proud, and they mean everything to me. Politics is hard on families, especially, but I believe, and I know my family believes, that public service is an honorable calling. Serving others is a high purpose. And while much about politics is ugly, we choose to serve through the good, the bad, and the ugly. Of course, we could not have run this race without an outstanding campaign team that has served me so well through so many campaigns, truly the finest I've ever worked with. To Rob, Mayanne, and Andy, and the entire campaign team who worked tirelessly and gave everything they had, and who believed in me, I want to express my gratitude. Of course, I want to thank my U.S. Senate staff, ably led in Washington, D.C. by Drew and in Texas by David. You work hard for 32 million Texans every day that I'm honored to represent, with long hours, high stress, and job uncertainty. I want to express my gratitude to my staff for their incredible professionalism and dedication to the 32 million people of Texas that I'm honored to represent. To everyone who's worked with me, alongside of me for all these many years, I just want to say thank you. And then to my supporters in this campaign, more than 1,000 current and former elected official endorsements, more than 30 statewide organizations, to every financial supporter, every volunteer, everyone who voted for me in this election, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tonight I'm reminded of something Teddy Roosevelt said in 1910. He said, "It's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and blood and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. A number of years ago, up in West Texas, that's not the region, that's the city, where there was a terrible catastrophe, the county commissioner up there said something that stuck with me all these years. He said, being a Texan doesn't describe where you're from. It describes who your family is. And for the past 2.5 decades, I have represented this family in the United States Senate. During that time, I helped write and pass a number of historic tax reform bills, focus on building our military for tomorrow, helping put hundreds of conservative judges on the federal bench, work to take Washington's boot off the necks of Texas job creators, and helped tackle some of our nation's most challenging problems. In this runoff election, approximately 8% of registered voters made their voices heard. And of that 8% who voted, roughly 60% said they were ready for a different direction. Another reminder that those who show up decide for those who do not. There's a simple rule in elections, you've heard me say it before, and that is the candidate who gets the most votes wins. The party in the majority gets to govern, and my hope is to keep my party in power for generations. I am an optimist by nature, which is just another way of saying I am a Texan. Yesterday, when I was in San Antonio, where I stood alongside of 109 students who had been admitted to service academies for this upcoming year, this was the 20th time that we've had this academy send-off, and it remains my favorite event of the year, because these young men and women, the leaders of our military and our communities and our nation tomorrow, give me great hope and optimism for our future. Well, a scripture verse comes to mind as well, where the Apostle Paul said, I've fought the good fight, I've finished the race, and I've kept the faith. Over the next 7 months, my service in the United States Senate, I intend to continue my work to help make this nation a better place for all Texans and all Americans. Thank you very much, and may God bless Texas, and may he continue to bless the United States of America.
Senator Cornyn.
I'll have more to say later.
All right, guys, make a hold, please.
Still have concerns about Ken Paxton?
You just heard incumbent senator, four-term senator John Cornyn, first elected in 2002, giving a speech he did not want to give tonight. You could totally hear the emotion in his voice. One thing that stuck with me, he said 8% voted, 60% wanted to go in a different direction. And he said, as he always jokes at his campaign events, he says, the candidate with the most votes wins.
Right.
Sean Rabb, he went biblical too.
Yeah, 2 Timothy 4:7, I have fought a good fight, kept the faith, finished my course. It's over for John Cornyn. That's what he's saying. Political career is now over. This is what sticks out. You nailed it. Don't miss this. 8% of the voters, 8% of Republican vote, 8% turned out. And of that number, 60% decided we want to go in a different direction for your state and for your government. And that's the greatest tragedy, is that people opted to go to the beach, or they went they had a barbecue yesterday, as you so aptly mentioned earlier.
It didn't show up today.
But that is a sad commentary. I feel like if it's running for dog catcher, I'm going to vote. I'm sorry. It's too much of a right, privilege, honor, and it's needed for us to participate in the process.
Casey, what stood out to you in that speech?
Well, I thought it was interesting when he said that he will always support the Republican ticket and that he will continue to do so. So in essence, even though if he's not the man, that means that he's still going to support Ken Paxton in his fight against James Tallarico come November. And then also pointing to his wife of 46 years and his daughters. That seemed when his voice broke a little bit there, you know, when you see the personal side of this and not just the professional side as well, and talked about how, you know, running races and being in the public eye is difficult. He could not have done that without his two daughters and his wife. But, you know, guys, he's 74 years old. I mean, he has a storied career. He's going to go down in the history books. You know, so this isn't a complete and utter loss.
It isn't
for
but no one
John
likes
Cornyn
to,
tonight.
No one likes to leave
This
losing.
way.
You're right.
You want to leave on top. You want to leave, and while his record will, history will show what John Cornyn has done. But in this moment, to have to say we came up short tonight, to have to say, a friend told me once, you know what makes God smile is when we make plans. To have to say that tonight, instead of saying, I have served you and I now step away, it's a difference, and it's difficult to do.
I can't help but wonder if inside, right, when these candidates, these people are getting ready in the morning, when they're brushing their teeth, shaving, you know, looking themselves in the mirror, I wonder if this is how he thought today was going to go. Do you have a gut feeling? Is there an instinct, or are you completely
Just hold the whole
blindsided?
side, yeah.
You know, I mean, I wonder how that works.
Now, what I'm wondering is, as we prepare to see the opposite on the Paxton screen,
Yes.
how much Paxton will talk about Cornyn? That, like, will he, depending on what politics you like, what brand you're used to, like, will he acknowledge, okay, this man has served forever. Yeah, we talked crap about each other, but now I hope your voters vote with me. Like, will Ken Paxton talk about John Cornyn?
It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know yet. We would hope that he would take the gentleman route and say, let's kind of bury the hatchet in the party. Let's come together now. Please come be part of what we're doing. We respect what you have done.
But does that room want to hear that? Is the question.
After they cheer for Paxton, yes. I mean, that should be part of it, you know. But you're talking about the family. Let's go back to that for a minute. Think of the nights, over the years of nights that he was gone from home while his wife raised those two girls. All of that has reflected, he's reflected on all of that sacrifice of the family as well for him to serve so long as senator.
It's a good point, you know. I mean, again, I feel like even though he really wanted the spot and he wanted to continue serving the people, there would almost be a sigh of relief, you know, that the fighting is over, because as we point out how quickly we are in this day and age with these little things in the palm of our hand, Tallarico's already dropping ads. New digital ads are already down. So those were ready and waiting to go in the wings.
You're cut differently. I mean, you're made differently when you're a politician, okay? So we'll talk more about that in a minute.
As we are waiting for Ken Paxton to speak, and Mark, be prepared. We're going to cut you off if he gets to the podium. We want to bring back in Mark Jones from Rice University. Man, I mean, Mark, you've covered politics in Texas for a while. I mean, that was a statesman's speech, but definitely not a speech he wanted to give tonight.
No, not at all. And this is a really sad ending to a long and very successful political career that probably was going to result in Senator Cornyn's defeat tonight. But I think what really pushed the numbers heavily towards Attorney General Paxton was that last-minute President Trump endorsement that caused some undecided voters to shift to Paxton, some Cornyn voters to stay home, and some doubtful Paxton voters to stick with their candidate.
So as we were talking, Mark, it's Sean again. As we were talking, I was sharing with Casey and Stephen how politicians are cut differently. And you know what? They don't want to leave this way, especially when you've had so much power and you've done so much for your party and for your country. You don't want it to be this way when you exit. You want to leave on top, and Mr. Cornyn wasn't able to do that tonight.
Right. Part of the secret there, though, is picking your battles and deciding when is that election that you leave on a graceful note as opposed to being forced out. As we're seeing here in Houston, Congressman Al Green had a similar situation with Christian Menifee. Green decided after being in office for 11 terms that he wanted one more and to make it to age 80 while in office. And voters here in Harris County and Fort Bend County decided that that wasn't what they wanted. And so Menifee not only won, but is winning by a substantial margin.
Marquez, we're also obviously keeping our eye on the returns with Chip Roy and Mays Middleton coming in with the Texas Attorney General's race. Can you kind of walk us through how this works? I'm always fascinated by the transition. So Ken Paxton is going to have a lot of work to do coming up to November. How does he juggle that while still being the Attorney General of Texas? How do you kind of do both jobs?
Well, a lot of it involves delegation. So Paxton will delegate to his sort of general staffers within the AG's office most of the day-to-day running of the office, and he'll primarily utilize the Office of Attorney General the way he's been using it during this primary season as a platform from which to launch investigations, to file lawsuits, or to engage in other activity, issuing opinions that bolsters his electoral chances in November. But I think by and large, the Office of the Texas Attorney General, it's a well-functioning, well-oiled machine. It will run with just much less oversight by the Attorney General.
Mark, James Tallarico now has to really be on offense, right? Because Republicans are going to be hitting him. Talk about, I mean, you do surveys with multiple universities. I mean, voter fatigue after all of these ads and all of this stuff, is there a fine line of how hard you go? Or, I mean, because the election is tonight, you can still flood people this week and then maybe let off the gas. What type of strategy do the Democrats have to do now that they know who their opponent is?
Well, I think for Democrats, you rely first on the fact that Republicans have done a lot of your dirty work for you, essentially highlighting all of Ken Paxton's many flaws. I think you would probably start focusing on some of the issues that the Cornyn campaign hasn't hit on as much. Things related to January 6th, things that are sort of more related to his policy positions. But by and large, Tallarico camp will probably let sleeping dogs lie for a little while and then gear up for the November election, where they have so much ammunition to use against Paxton because all of this dirty laundry that's lying out there. I would expect Republicans, though, will immediately start hitting Tallarico hard because since it's going to be very tough for them to rehabilitate Ken Paxton in the eyes of many voters, their best option is probably to drag Tallarico down by attacking him on many of the positions he holds or statements he's made that are well to the left of the average Texas voter.
So what does James Tallarico have to do to pull off an upset here, Mark, if you could speculate on that?
Well, one way to think about this is Greg Abbott's probably going to defeat Gina Hinojosa, the Democratic candidate in the gubernatorial race, by somewhere between, say, 6 and 10 points. So if you're James Tallarico, what you just need to look at are those Abbott voters. How many of them can you get to switch and to your side? If we just take a hypothetical scenario where, say, Abbott winning by 7%, if you can get 1 in 20 Abbott voters to vote for Tallarico and 1 in 20 Abbott voters to cast a protest vote for Libertarian Ted Brown or not vote, that's all Tallarico needs. So he doesn't need that much, but he does need to convince some Republicans who vote for Greg Abbott to cross over and vote for him if he's going to be successful in November.
Mark, one last thing. During the impeachment, it got really testy, and some Republicans now have bad blood, including Jeff Leach with Ken Paxton. Jeff Leach, full-throated endorsement of Senator John Cornyn. And he tweeted this. He said, "Some Republicans I backed won, some lost, but now our GOP ticket is set, and you can be sure I'll be supporting every Republican from top to bottom this November." Are we going to see a quick,
healing, if you will?
Yeah. Is it a quick kumbaya for those who supported Cornyn, or will we still see some outliers?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans holding their nose and very grudgingly still casting a ballot for Ken Paxton. In survey that we've done at Texas Southern University's Barbara Jordan Public Policy Research and Survey Center, we found that a very small proportion of Cornyn voters actually will vote for James Tallarico, but it was 2%, and so most Republicans are going to stick with their nominee. But in an election where Donald Trump is dragging Republicans down across the country, it doesn't take too many for Tallarico to be successful.
All right, Mark, we're gonna cut you off. Ken Paxton, the Republican nominee for Texas Senate, at the podium.
In this room, to the people watching at home, and to the people of the great state of Texas, tonight, we just made history. I want to thank my family, my kids, my grandchildren, the Paxton Patriots, and every single person here today. Without your love, your support, and your prayers, we would not be here tonight celebrating this incredible victory. I'd also like to thank all of the grassroots, local, state, and national leaders who supported this campaign, including Congressman Brandon Gill, who just spoke, Lance Gooden, Congressman Nels, Congressman Wesley Hunt, and Congressman Ronnie Jackson. I'd also like to thank Scott Pressler and Turning Point Action for their endorsements. And then there's one person who I think you might know, President Donald J. Trump. When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support, and I look forward to working with him in the Senate to deliver for Texas. Tonight, we just sent a Texas-sized message to Washington. I said it in March, and I'll say it again now. Today, change was on the ballot, and change won. Let me be clear, this is not just my win, this is your win. We just proved that this Senate seat doesn't belong to Washington. It belongs to you, the hardworking men and women of this state. We went up against $150 million in all the attacks in the world, and you know what happened? The voters declared loud and clear a simple truth that we know in our hearts and in our souls: Texas is not for sale. Now I want to take a minute to say something about Senator Cornyn. I want to thank Senator Cornyn for his service to this state. John has dedicated much of his life to serving Texas. He's worked diligently for years to help Texas. And for that spirit of service to the Lone Star State and our nation, I'm very grateful. Thank you, John. So no matter who you supported in this race, whether it was me, Senator Cornyn, or you voted for someone different in March, I want to thank every single Texan, and I want to let them know that I want to earn your support. Tonight is not the end of a campaign. Tonight is the beginning of the fight to preserve every value we hold dear. The future of Texas and the future of America is on the line, and I intend to do everything I can to expand our movement. I've won 3 statewide elections because I know how critical it is for our party to come together, and that's what we must do now. Without a shadow of a doubt, I will be the Democrats' #1 target in November. Texas will be the radical left's #1 priority, but if there's one thing I know about Texans, it's that we're not going to let them take it. This campaign is not about red versus blue. It's about so much more. My opponent is the most extreme radical the Democrats have ever nominated. He's even running a vegan campaign, whatever that is. He goes by a few names that you may all have heard of. Some people know him as Tofu Tallarico. Some people call him Six-Gender Jimmy. I've even heard some people call him James Tallarico. And others refer to him simply as Low T Tallarico. But no matter what you call him, let me tell you this. James Tallarico is a threat to everything we hold dear in this state and in this country. He's a threat to our security and our safety. He wants open borders and even said a welcome mat should be at our southern border. He's a threat to our children. He wants boys and girls sports, gender mutilation surgery performed on kids. And when asked what he loved outside of his family and friends, you heard what Brandon Gill said. His first answer was trans kids. That's weird, and that's a radical guy. He's a threat to our prosperity and Texas economy. He said you can't be a Christian if you support the oil and gas industries. He wants to raise your taxes, and he won't do a single thing to lower costs for you and your family. And finally, he's a threat to our very way of life and our values. I mean, he's a vegan who thinks God is non-binary and that there's actually 6 biological sexes. It's hard to imagine someone more radical than that. No matter what he says or how much he raises, the reality is that James Tallarico is going to be nothing more than a Texas-based puppet for Chuck Schumer and the National Democrats. Yes. He wants the open borders policies of Biden, the woke agenda of AOC. He's going to push trillions more in spending that's going to continue to drive up prices for all of us. He can never become our senator, but I need your help. We know James Tallarico is going to raise more money than any Democrat in America. So I need everyone watching to go to kenpaxton.com and donate right now and support this campaign. Every Democrat, and I would say every Republican, knows that if we lose this state, if Republicans lose this state, we lose the country. Amen. But I truly believe that together, not only will we win this race, but we can ensure that America's best days are ahead of us. Yes. You see, I'm not just running against the Democrats. I'm running to deliver for you, just as I have as Attorney General. I'm running to lower your cost of living because you deserve to be able to buy a home, afford groceries, and have a high quality of health care without being forced to stay up at night worrying about how you're going to pay your monthly premium or pay off your debt. In the Senate, I'll support President Trump's America First agenda and finally secure our nation's elections by passing the Save America Act. I've taken on big food and big pharma as Attorney General. And I'm going to continue doing that in the Senate because making America healthy again is critical for our nation's future. As Attorney General, I've sued some of the largest companies in the world like Netflix, Snapchat, and Roblox for taking advantage of our kids by exposing them to dangerous, addictive material. In Washington, I will not stop fighting to protect Texas children from big tech hurting our kids. Amen. We live in dangerous times, and that's exactly why I'll support our military and be ready to confront the threat from Communist China, which is our #1 geopolitical enemy. Just a few weeks ago, I helped establish the first ever detransition clinic in the country at Texas Children's Hospital. This will help kids reverse the damage caused by radical doctors who tried to transition them. And in the Senate, I will never back down from taking on the woke mob. I've also seen firsthand how bad judges can destroy our freedom and force a liberal agenda on Texas. Yes. That's why I will be dedicated to confirming judges who will uphold and defend the Constitution. So now it's time to finish this, Texas. We have until November to come together and bring as many people into this campaign as possible, defeat James Tallarico, and deliver for our state. Yes. I can't thank you enough for your support and your hard work and your vote. Thank you for making history. God bless you. God bless Texas. And God bless the United States of America.
Exiting to Thunderstruck. Hear that at Cowboys games. Texas Republican nominee for U.S. Senate Attorney General Ken Paxton. He did what I wondered. He did mention John Cornyn in a...
Yes, he did.
Thanked him for his service.
Right.
And basically said now it's time for his party to unite to face James Tallarico.
Yeah, I thought that was big of him. You know, I mean, to again not take away what Cornyn has done. And he said that he is grateful that for decades he has been serving the people of Texas, and he was grateful for that. But then, not to be expected, then quickly moved into taking some pot shots at James Tallarico and go ahead and getting the fight going.
He's following the playbook.
Yeah.
You know, the fight is over. We come together. I thank you for your service. Now let's fight. And he's already taking shots at James Tallarico, and there's a lot of shots out there.
In this age of instant reaction, as Casey Stegall was talking about, James Tallarico, they already had a nice message video already ready and bow tied up. So let's take a look at it as James Tallarico says Ken Paxton is, in his words, the most corrupt politician in America.
Something just happened in Texas. The most corrupt politician in America just became the Republican nominee for the United States Senate. 3 years ago, Ken Paxton was impeached by his own party for using his public office to enrich himself and his donors at the expense of the people. That kind of corruption is the rot at the core of this broken system. It's why we can't afford anything. It's why we can't get ahead no matter how hard we work. For 50 years, mega donors and their puppet politicians like Ken Paxton have stolen from us with their bribes, their bailouts, and their billionaire tax breaks. Ken Paxton has gotten away with it. They've all gotten away with it. But that ends this year, in this state, in this race. If we, the people, can come together to defeat the most corrupt politician in America, we can defeat this entire corrupt system. We can start unrigging this economy. We can start raising our pay, cutting our taxes, lowering our costs. We can finally get ahead. It's time to come together. The people versus Ken Paxton.
That's a very legal ending, the people versus Ken Paxton. I mean, he's trying to make it a referendum on Ken Paxton and his baggage. But again, Ken Paxton has survived the baggage time and time again. I mean, you get impeached by your own party and you're still now sitting as the Republican nominee for Texas Senate a couple of years later. You can't just, that's not storybook. That's not normal. And this is where we are now, though.
Right. And the lines are drawn, okay? Paxton has laid out, there were at least 8 issues he laid out against Tallarico, at least 8 that we heard tonight. And same with Mr. Tallarico, he's laid out the arguments against Ken Paxton and why Ken Paxton can't be the senator. So the lines are drawn. We know where the fight's going to be between those lines now, and we'll have to see how it turns out. You cannot, I go back to this again. You said you can't ignore that he's still the nominee after all this happened in the last 3 years. I believe tomorrow is the day that he was actually impeached 3 years ago. But here's what. You cannot ignore that there are people, as Mark Jones said, who don't believe the allegations against him, who think they were, no pun intended, trumped up, and others who think, hey, he's pushing the agenda that I support, and so it really doesn't matter. If it didn't stick, I'm going to still support it. That's kind of where we are as it relates to Ken Paxton. James Tallarico will have a lot to explain and a lot to put in context, because we heard a lot from Ken Paxton tonight about why James Tallarico should not be the senator from Texas.
Real quick, I know we need to go to break, but also kind of dovetailing off of what Tallarico was saying, the Texas Democratic Party releasing a statement. It said that while Ken Paxton was becoming a millionaire, he cheered the policies that spiked the cost of gas, groceries, health care, and utility bills that made life harder for Texans. So they're already going after that affordability concept, which is something that we already talked about a bit earlier. It's on a lot of people's minds.
All right, so we got about 10 minutes left. When we come back, we're going to put a bow tie on this thing, talking about all of the races, the big winners and the big losers.
Big losers.
Stay with us. Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General, says that history was made in Texas tonight on this runoff election night. It's become a national topic. It's become a big focus. And guys, I mean, tomorrow, I'm sure it's going to be talked about even more. John Cornyn, another incumbent, losing in a primary. Casey?
Yeah, and also we're looking at a Texas Attorney General. We have some other races that we've been watching as well. Aside from the U.S. Senate race, the big House District 33 here in North Texas that was redrawn because of the congressional redistricting. So there are a lot of storylines that are still coming in. Of course, the headline being the upset with Cornyn and Paxton.
Yeah, and don't miss this. We keep hearing about how low the president's approval ratings are, yet across the country, his candidates last weekend winning, and now again today winning. Don't disagree with Mark Jones. He says, I think that Paxton would have won, but I didn't think it would be, the endorsement by President Trump maybe added to the margin of victory here. But clearly, the biggest numbers tonight for me are 8% of the voters that returned to the poll today.
Let's talk about the Attorney General's runoff on the Republican side.
Okay.
Mays Middleton being declared the winner there in that race over
Chip Roy.
Congressman Chip Roy. You see right there, 56% to 44 right now. Mays Middleton, that money paying off, at least for the name ID, and now facing off against Nathan Johnson, who's the state senator from Dallas County on the Democratic side.
Yeah, I think Chip Roy certainly thought he had an opportunity here, considering 3 times congressman, considering the whole Hill Country, the flooding, Kerrville, Camp Mystic, all of that in his region, and he had a big voice in the aftermath of that last July, August, September. I think he thought he had a chance. Also, his experience in the Attorney General's office, one time the first assistant in that office, again, commercials do influence people. We heard the name over and over and over and over and over again. MAGA Mays Middleton, MAGA Mays Middleton. Late in the game, Chip Roy changed his commercial around saying, hey, he's just an heir. He's using money that in a trust fund. He's never been in a courtroom. He's not the one. That came late in the days here leading up to the runoff election. And of course, also donations came in late for Chip Roy as well.
Casey, I mean, Democrats are trying to pull off something that they haven't done in decades. And you would think if they are able to pull it off at the top, then AG would also be pulled off. Like, I don't think it's just a one domino effect, right? If this happens, do you think it will be a trickle down effect? Or is it literally people saying, I can't vote for Paxton, I'll vote for Tallarico, but then Mays Middleton, that just seems like a stretch, right? Like voting for Mays and Tallarico. I mean, do you think if Democrats do what they're trying to do, that it would have to be down, all the way down the.
I don't think it's necessarily across the board. I really do think that the days of people just punching their straight party ticket, going down the line, I'm just voting all Republican because that's what I want. I think that isn't as popular as it used to be. I don't know that it's a one size fits all.
Your question, though, I think we're going to have to see some campaigning with Tallarico and Nathan Johnson and Gina Hinojosa. They're going to have to run the campaign in triplets just because they're going to be up against so much from the Republicans. And you heard Mark Jones say not that many votes to make a difference in the Tallarico race. We'll have to wait till polling comes out in the Mays Middleton Nathan Johnson race. But Nathan Johnson's off to a big start for Democrats. They're excited about the possibility of him securing that AG seat.
Another race that we've been watching all night, Texas 33, that newly drawn district, current Congresswoman, but not incumbent in this seat, Julie Johnson, facing off against former Congressman Colin Allred. Colin Allred with 55% there. Those numbers have not changed.
Still have not changed.
In
Still
about
waiting
2
on an update.
hours.
Yeah.
So we're seeing if something changes with that. If day of is something unique, 64% reporting there. What does that outcome say to you? I mean, Colin Allred led in March, and
he did.
He's leading now.
And he's leading now. And if the numbers don't change, again, we haven't had an update for a couple hours, it seems, in that race. He led by a very comfortable margin, maybe 11 to 13 points in the March primary. Not enough to go. He didn't have 50 plus 1 then, so maybe not a surprise as much as both of them have been working. But he really hit her, Julie Johnson, on this insider trading and Palantir stocks.
Did voters listen to that, or were they just, hey, Colin Allred is the name I remember. He's been on the ballot, the last 3 years in a row?
So you never know how much of an impact. It was at a time when we were hearing a lot about Congress and the insider information and the buying, becoming rich while they're in Congress. All of that was happening at the same time. A lot of people didn't like that. The public didn't like the idea that I sent you to D.C. to represent me, and you're getting wealthy, you're making millions, you're getting insider trading. Whether Julie Johnson was part of that or not, which she denied, it was in that moment that this came out, and Allred seized on that. His commercials, he had more money. He had more money, 3 to 1, maybe 4 to 1.
Was that because he had that Senate money, and then just translated into a really smaller race?
He was on TV a lot more than Julie Johnson.
You know, one thing we should point out, our team has been at Colin Allred's watch party at his campaign event tonight, and we had heard some initial rumblings there. You see a live picture of the podium. We heard some rumblings a little bit earlier that he would be speaking within this last hour. But then as Senator Cornyn and Attorney General Paxton took to the podium, we got word that Colin Allred did not want to step on those speeches, obviously.
Right,
So
you want your airtime. I mean, you campaigned, right? And so you're trying to get that. That's earned media. That's, hey, if I talk at this time, a better chance of it airing to a larger crowd.
And it would have been great if he could have been standing behind the curtains as soon as Paxton said goodbye.
Instead,
they brought him out, because he could have gotten on TV for 5 or 10 minutes. Before the newscasts come and take over.
And I say that just to point out that we still have not yet heard from him. That is someone that we haven't been able to get reaction from yet this evening, but we are working to do that. And there you see the live picture. And the moment that Colin Allred comes to the podium, we will bring it to you. But we are going to be switching over soon to go on for Fox 4 News at 9.
Yeah, and in the context of this race, Texas 33, right? So, I mean, Democrats technically are losing a seat in North Texas. It's just this seat is currently held by a Democrat. It's going to be likely replaced by a Democrat. But Texas 32 is a whole different conversation that we'll be talking about in November with that newly drawn Texas 32 that goes from Mesquite, East Dallas area all the way past Tyler
to Smith County and beyond.
Man.
Yeah.
As we pointed out earlier, no voting irregularities that were discussed. Boy, it was a bit of a cluster mess. Being nice in March with the changes with the Republicans and the ballots and the precincts and all of that. So pretty smooth day across North Texas and the state.
No one I would rather be beside for a couple of hours than you two gentlemen. I mean, we had it covered from all. We want to thank our crews on the ground, our photographers and reporters as well. We're going to switch over to on air, and you can still keep watching online if you're streaming with us on Fox Local or on YouTube. We're going to have much more from runoff election night in Texas.
Fun times.
Take care.
Another round of storms is moving in from the west. When the rain will arrive, and a look at tomorrow's storm chances. Attorney General Ken Paxton defeats longtime incumbent John Cornyn in the Republican runoff for U.S. Senate. We're going to hear from both candidates coming up. And there are still many runoff races too close to call. A look at District 33 and other races still ahead. Plus, 3 people are dead, another person injured after a shootout at a West Dallas short-term rental party. The latest from police coming up.
Here for you, the news leader, Fox 4.
Another round of storms is moving into North Texas. Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes. It's 9 o'clock. Parts of North Texas saw some showers earlier today. Tonight's round of storms could produce strong winds, maybe even some small hail. So let's get you right to Chief Meteorologist Dan Henry for the latest. Dan.
Hey there, Heather. These storms pretty much moving in right according to schedule here. The good news is over the last few hours, we've not had any reports of severe weather. There's a look at the last couple of hours, and you can see them just beginning to push into Fort Worth right now. In fact, as we take a closer look, you can see what happened. We had an outflow boundary from the earlier afternoon thunderstorms moving west across North Texas, and that really ignited some thunderstorm activity very quickly. That stretches now from Azle into West Fort Worth around the Everman area and down just about into Mansfield at this point in time. Heavy rain, some frequent cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. There may be some small pea-sized hail in these storms. The ones to our south may be a little bit stronger. They are just beginning now to push towards I-35 around the Waco area, up towards Hillsboro. Just had a wind gust of 37 at Waco in the last few minutes. And finally to our north and west, some more scattered storms stretching from Decatur west through Jack County, just to the northeast of the Jacksboro area. So the severe weather threat is very low. Some of the strongest storms could produce wind gusts up to 45, maybe up to nickel-sized hail. And there could be at least a couple instances where we see enough rain come down to trigger some localized flash flooding. Temperatures at this hour, 79 at DFW and at Love Field, and we're currently holding at 80 degrees at Alliance. So while the last couple of days have featured hit and miss storms, the ones tonight are going to be a lot more hit rather than miss. So if you haven't had much rain, I think you're going to get a good chance of seeing some for tonight. We'll take another look at radar, step you through Futurecast through the overnight hours, and of course look ahead to your 7-day outlook in a few minutes.
It is runoff election night here in Texas as voters decide who will be on the ballot in November. So you can find a full list of the results on our website. Just go to fox4news.com. But right now, let's get right to the biggest race. The Republican runoff for U.S. Senate, and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has defeated sitting Senator John Cornyn for the Republican state nomination. Fox 4's David Sentenzri is at Paxton's watch party in Plano. David.
Well, Heather, I can tell you that Ken Paxton's U.S. Senate watch party here in Plano is effectively over, and I don't think anyone who is in this room tonight expected it to be over this early. But that just goes to show how big of a victory this was and how those results really just came in much earlier than expected. I was in this room when it was projected on the screen that the Associated Press was calling this race for Ken Paxton, and this crowd just erupted. Again, he was slightly favored in this race, but to some people I was asking, they were saying, hey, you know, we view this as a coin flip. Early numbers, however, for Paxton were big, and that gap did not close. Keep in mind, for months, President Donald Trump dangled his endorsement, only announcing last week that Paxton is his guy. So with how close the primary election was a couple months back, you have to think President Trump's endorsement played a role in this big win for Paxton, and Paxton made sure to thank the president in his victory speech just a bit ago.
And then there's one person who I think you might know, President Donald J. Trump. When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support.
So those numbers, again, you probably saw them on your screen, but Ken Paxton with 63% of the vote. What I'm seeing right now, 37% for John Cornyn. That's with 62% of precincts reporting. Again, I don't even think Paxton supporters thought the win would be this big. In fact, Paxton came on stage 30 minutes earlier than expected. He was supposed to come on just a bit after 9 o'clock, ended up coming around that 8:30 time just because he was projected to be the winner so early. So this thing is really just wrapping up right now, and they're on to talking about the Democratic candidate, James Tallarico. And while Ken Paxton was on stage, he threw out a few nicknames for Tallarico that I do not think Tallarico and his supporters would appreciate. He told people here in this audience that Tallarico is a threat to Americans. I know we're going to have more in just a bit on the response from Tallarico, who's obviously watching this race closely this evening to see who he's going to go up against in November. But there were at least a few hundred people. This room was packed because, keep in mind, this was really the most important race of this runoff election. So a lot of people came out here this evening, and a lot of people are out early. Heather?
Indeed. All right. And David, you know, we've all seen the Tallarico ads, the negative ads about him that have started to run. So I imagine it's only going to start to ramp up from here.
You got to think so. We've all seen those ads already. And as I mentioned, at the end of Paxton's speech, he started going right to some of those names we've heard Tallarico called in those ads. A lot of people talking about some of the rather controversial things he has said, talking about how God is non-binary and just other things that have been used in political ads. Again, Tallarico might want to paint some context around some of the things that he said, but there's no question that that Cornyn-Paxton race we saw had a lot of animosity between the two, a lot of negative attack ads, and you got to think as we gear toward November, it's just going to be a whole lot more.
All right. We'll keep watching it. All right. David, thank you. So earlier this evening, Senator Cornyn took the stage to acknowledge his defeat after 4 terms.
After a public service career lasting more than 4 decades and 18 consecutive campaign wins, tonight we've come up short in this primary runoff. And I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election. I've said throughout this race that I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it.
Despite vowing his support for the ticket, Cornyn did not mention Paxton by name. He went on to say that he plans to continue serving the state for the remainder of his term. The Democratic nominee for the Senate race, State Representative James Tallarico, released a video statement after Paxton's win. He called the Attorney General, quote, the most corrupt politician in America.
That kind of corruption is the rot at the core of this broken system. It's why we can't afford anything. It's why we can't get ahead no matter how hard we work. For 50 years, mega donors and their puppet politicians like Ken Paxton have stolen from us.
So it was an ugly race at times, but as we heard earlier, Senator Cornyn vowed that he would support the Republican candidate. Attention now turns to November, when Democrats will try to break the decades-long Republican dominance in the race. Let's check in with Sean Rabb, Casey Stegall, Stephen Dial. You guys have been talking about the numbers as they came in all night and these various storylines, the negative ad campaigns. You've had a lot to say. I've been listening and watching the past couple of hours, and yet it continues.
Yeah, it does continue, and really, I don't think anyone saw this coming tonight, not like it ended up.
I mean, the margin is what shocked me the most in this. And, you know, a lot of people said Ken Paxton, especially after that Trump endorsement, could win the nomination. But, I mean, the margin, 60 to 30, I mean,
landslide, you can really say, for someone who has been as strong as John Cornyn has in the Senate and the type of figure that he's been. No one saw this kind of defeat coming.
And it's important to keep in context the timing of all of this, because everything seems like it moves so quickly this day and age. 1 week ago today is when President Donald Trump surprised a lot of people, and through his support to Attorney General Ken Paxton. He and Cornyn had been vying for the president's endorsement for a long time. President Trump said that he was not going to make a decision on it. 1 week ago today is when he surprised everyone through through his support behind Ken Paxton, and it looks as if it might have paid off for the Attorney General tonight.
A big talking point from incumbent Senator John Cornyn was him saying 8% voted and 60% wanted to go in a different direction. It really just puts in context how small of a number can make a permanent, possibly, if Ken Paxton goes on to become the next senator from Texas, impact.
Well, it's made a permanent impact because John Cornyn's gone. Permanent, period. 8%. Think of the money that's been spent since March 3rd, just since the primary. Think of the commercials you've seen, the money that's been spent, the doors that's been knocked, the mailers that's gone out. 8% of the voters responded in the Republican primary. That is a tragedy because you are not letting your voice count, your vote count. You're not part of the process. So what you get is what you get.
I know we've been sounding a bit like a broken record, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about how much money was spent with this race. Sean, you just alluded to that a little bit, about $135 million total. AP reporting that Cornyn and his allies raised about $90 million compared to $10.5 million for Ken Paxton. So looking as if it's one of the most expensive U.S. Senate races in American history.
And Paxton saying that, you know, we were up against all the money. He said that President Trump was being pushed by Republican leaders to abandon him. And he said, hey, I stood with you on January 6th, President Trump. And then President Trump was a man of his word and stood with him when it mattered most. And clearly that showed in these results tonight.
And I quote Mr. Paxton tonight, referring to Mr. Trump's endorsement. His endorsement is the most powerful force in politics.
So as we turn to November now, we have already seen the political knives out, guys. I mean, we've already seen ads being dropped. Tallarico already had a canned video, a canned message. Team Tallarico about 10 minutes ago posting Ken Paxton's mugshot. What I was saying on our stream is, just like the president, Ken Paxton has been Teflon. He has weathered the storm. He was impeached by his own party. He weathered the storm. He is now the Republican nominee for Texas Senate. What do Democrats have to do, guys, I mean, this is an uphill battle for them.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. They've got to say it very loud. Here's Ken Paxton. If you don't know, now you know. They have to repeat that over and over and over again in every format possible. They've got to flood social media, TikTok, little 1-minute pieces about Ken Paxton as much as they put ads on TV if they hope to have a chance. And remember, they only need to turn some of the votes, not all of the votes.
Well, and of course, we know this already. It is effective for politicians to seize on fear and to seize on uncertainty. We are in the middle of a war with Iran. Gas prices extremely high. Lots of people have been worried and talking about affordability. So if the Democrats really want to try and secure this seat come November, then they could potentially seize on the frustration and the anxiety, frankly, of the American people, but also Texans.
Now, let me throw this in real quick. Not only do they have to pounce on Ken Paxton, but they're going to have to find a way to defend James Tallarico.
Because what Republicans have been doing, and they did it since the day Donald Trump endorsed Ken Paxton, that first ad, in his own words, playing different comments that Tallarico has made. And while many will say that they care about the economy, that those different types of subjects, gender, politics, all of that, it plays in the minds of some voters. And so Democrats are going to have to cut through that noise as well, because if that's what the Republicans are going to be pushing, Democrats are going to have to defend, like you said, play defense, but also play offense.
Right, at the same time. And so it's going to be an interesting season, if you will, as we race from now to November.
Well, we're going to get a little bit of a reprieve from all of those negative ads. I think those will clear the airways. They help pay the bills with our advertising here at Fox 4. But boy, oh boy, you can bet November it is going to get wild. So buckle up, Heather.
Yeah, Casey, I don't know how long we're going to get that reprieve, but
right.
A lot of people will take it, no matter how long.
We will.
Or short. All right. Guys, thank you. All right, we want to go now to the District 33 race where Colin Allred is addressing supporters. Amelia Jones has been there, but let's see if we can listen in.
We're stronger because of how diverse we are. North Texas is strong because of what we look like, but it's been under attack.
Oh, we are not going to listen in. All right. Well, Amelia Jones is there, and we're going to check in with her shortly. But we do want to take a look at some other big races in the Republican runoff for Attorney General. State Senator Mays Middleton holding a sizable lead over Congressman Chip Roy. Then on the Democratic side for Attorney General, State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas defeating former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski. The Republican runoff for Railroad Commissioner turning into a multi-million-dollar contest. Former Tarrant County GOP Chair Beau French. There are those numbers currently holding a lead, but it's still tight over Commissioner Jim Wright. French faced opposition from the state Republican leaders for anti-Semitic remarks. The winner will face Democrat John Rosenthal in November. Now in the Democratic runoff for Lieutenant Governor, State Rep Vicki Goodwin of Austin defeating Labor leader Marcos Velez. She will face Republican incumbent Dan Patrick in November. And a reminder, you can find the full list of results, the numbers as they come in on our website, fox4news.com. Some uninvited guests are being blamed for a deadly shooting at a short-term rental property in West Dallas. What police are saying about the search for the gunman. A 17-year-old is in a Fort Worth hospital in the ICU after being shot in a suspected road rage incident. Now his family is sharing more about what happened. Plus, the Plano City Council votes on AT&T's plan to move its headquarters from Dallas to a new campus in Plano. And weather is really our other big story tonight. Here's a look at the radar. Dan Henry will be back a little later with an update as we watch storms moving across North Texas. Here's another live look at our radar. These storms could bring strong winds and small hail. Chief Meteorologist Dan Henry will be back with an update coming up on Fox 4 News at 9. 3 people are dead. Another person is injured after a shootout at a West Dallas short-term rental property. No arrests have been made. Police tell us a fight broke out after an uninvited group showed up at the party. Fox 4's Vanya Castillo has more from investigators, and she joins us now. Vanya.
Heather, yeah, I tried talking to people in the neighborhood, but they're all still pretty shaken up by what happened last night. But a lot of them did tell me that they've become a lot more nervous in their community ever since seeing more short-term rentals pop up like the one from last night.
It's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking.
By daylight, the party was over, but outside this West Dallas home, the reminders were everywhere. Bullet holes, broken windows, and crews cleaning blood from inside the house. Pastor Earl Thomas speaking on the loss in his community.
It's not that we're losing our next generation. If we look around and take a deep breath, we've lost them.
Dallas police say 3 young people were killed after gunfire erupted during a party at the short-term rental just after midnight. 20-year-old Jacelyn Scott, 19-year-old Journey Griffin, and a third unidentified person were killed. A fourth person was taken to a hospital. Police believe an uninvited group showed up to the party before the gunfire broke out. Several neighbors who were too scared to speak on camera told us that there are often large parties at this rental.
So when people are not moving to the community to live in the community because they can't afford the community, then they're coming to rent out, lease out the Airbnbs. That brings sometimes trouble to the community simply because it's not us.
Hours after the shooting, we watched 2 people leave the home wearing sunglasses and hats. We tried to ask them questions, but they didn't want to speak with us.
Trouble goes wherever it's invited, and it really doesn't need an invitation, it just needs access.
But for neighbors here, it's about more than this one shooting.
My prayer is that we really come back together, sit down and have conversations about how we can kind of direct the next generation on what it is to be peaceful, educated, and have a sense of what the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, as of now, police have not made any arrests, but are asking that anyone with any information come forward. Back to you, Heather.
All right, Vanya Castillo live for us tonight. Thank you. The Plano City Council approved a zoning change for AT&T as the company plans to build a tower on its new headquarters in the city. The 280-foot tower for the telecommunications giant will feature the company's logo along with more than 2 million square feet of office space there on that campus. The rezoning at the site is needed because the tower will also function as a communications antenna. AT&T announced earlier this year that it was leaving downtown Dallas for Plano.
If there's going to be a company that's going to come in and do something different, who better than this 150-year-old company that is bringing its headquarters here? And even better, they're no longer relying on a building to be iconic. They're using a sculpture. And so I just think it's an extraordinary thing. I think it's going to add so much to our entire city, not just Legacy West and that district right there.
Demolition work is already underway at the old Electronic Data Systems headquarters. Full demolition could take anywhere from 5 to 6 months. Tonight, we are hearing from the family of a 17-year-old who was on life support after he was shot in the head during a road rage shooting in Fort Worth. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager reports.
Giovanni Rocha's family spent the day here at Harris Methodist in Fort Worth waiting for the moment the teenager is taken away for his organs to be donated. Now, the family tells me they are angry and they are frustrated, but right now they are focused on trying to navigate those next heartbreaking steps.
Like I always do when he's going out, he usually tells me, I'm leaving. Okay, take care then. I'll see you later. And later, I end up being here then.
Take care. Some of the final words spoken between siblings before 17-year-old Giovanni Rocha left home for a late-night snack. Less than an hour later, his family was rushing to the hospital.
I look at him and I like to think that maybe he'll wake up, but we all know he won't anymore.
The 17-year-old shot in the back of the head during a road rage incident late Saturday night. Rocha slumped over in the passenger seat of his friend's Chevy Silverado, pulled over at a gas station at Mansfield Highway and Seminary Drive. Rocha's friend in the driver's seat and Rocha's younger brother, a 15-year-old, in the back seat. Fort Worth police say the teens had just been in a minor traffic accident with a Chevy Avalanche with oversized chrome wheels. At a red light, police say there was some sort of argument, and 41-year-old Jose Camargo Madrigal fired into the Silverado. Fox 4 obtained surveillance video showing the Silverado speeding through an intersection on Seminary. Seconds later, the Avalanche appears to chase after it. Camargo Madrigal was arrested early Sunday morning admitting to the shooting while his son drove them to buy baby formula. He's now charged with murder.
I know that nothing will be the same anymore.
Rocha just finished his junior year at Dunbar High School in Fort Worth, and for the summer, started his own landscaping service, even making these business cards. His older sister passing on words she constantly heard around the house.
That he'll probably tell you that live life. He was the type of guy to just live it.
Words that now have a heavier meaning. In Fort Worth, Peyton Yeager, Fox 4 News.
The NCAA denied Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's request to be reinstated as eligible for the upcoming football season. The university previously ruled him ineligible and submitted a reinstatement appeal on his behalf following an investigation into sports gambling. Sorsby allegedly placed online wagers on sports over a period of several years. The decision comes after he recently completed treatment for a gambling addiction and filed a lawsuit to overturn the decision. A court hearing is scheduled in Lubbock County for that legal challenge. Coming up, the roster is revealed for the World Cup. Who made the cut for the U.S. men's national team? We're also going to check back in on the Texas runoff. A look at the latest results for District 33 between Julie Johnson and Colin Allred. District 32 ahead. And here's another look at the radar. Showers and storms rolling into North Texas. More Fox 4 News coming up. are watching the Democratic runoff for U.S. District 33. This is a redrawn district. Current U.S. Representative for District 32, Julie Johnson, facing former District 32 Representative Colin Allred. Early votes have Allred in the lead. Fox 4's Amelia Jones is at Allred's watch party in Dallas tonight. Amelia.
Heather, that's right. The race has not been called yet, but Colin Allred has held a steady lead all night since votes started to come in. He spoke to his voters about 10 minutes ago here at his watch party at Union Hall in downtown Dallas. He talked about the need to bring down the high cost of living, especially for things like gas, groceries, and rent, fighting for civil rights, and the need to keep momentum going heading into November. Allred is a former congressman. He represented District 32, which was redrawn away from Dallas. Much of that district will now be part of the newly drawn District 33. Julie Johnson currently represents the area. She succeeded him when he ran his failed campaign for U.S. Senate against Ted Cruz. Both candidates had backing from prominent Democrats. Allred was supported by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and Johnson received support from State Representative and Democrat Senate candidate James Tallarico. The race did become hotly contested, though. Allred and Johnson threw attacks at each other surrounding the issue of immigration. An important topic, as the newly redrawn District 33 is now a majority-minority district with a large Latino population. His message to the crowd tonight was to come together and define what the Democratic Party stands for.
Because there are people out there who are struggling.
Yes.
There are people out there who are looking for somebody who might care. And I do. And I know y'all do. We know what's at stake. If we stand for anything, it has to be for working people. It has to be for opportunity, for the idea that if you work hard and you play by the rules, that you should be able to get ahead.
Allred did not mention anything about his opponent, Julie Johnson. I reached out to Johnson's campaign. She is not at her own watch party, but rather she's at the watch party of Attorney General Democrat candidate Nathan Johnson, and that's nearby here in downtown Dallas. Her campaign has not responded to me with any statement or comment as the results are coming in. District 33 is now anchored entirely in Dallas County, and it is heavily favored to go Democrat in November. So essentially, this means that Allred, if he is in the lead and as this race is soon to be called, he could be heading into November as the likely winner for this district to represent it in Congress. Heather.
All right, Amelia Jones, thank you. We also have an update for you now. This is in the Republican runoff for Texas Attorney General. State Senator Mays Middleton has defeated Congressman Chip Roy. Roy says he called Middleton to concede. Unlike the Senate race, President Trump stayed neutral in the Republican Attorney General contest. We have full election results online right now. Just go to our website, fox4news.com. Crews are making sure Dallas is ready for the World Cup and all of its visitors. Today, teams started placing flags along the Ronald Kirk pedestrian bridge over the Trinity River. It's being called the International Corridor of Flags. Each flag represents all 48 of the qualified countries taking part in the World Cup. Meantime, the U.S. men's national team roster for the World Cup was officially revealed today in New York. On that list, midfielder Weston McKennie, who calls Little Elm his hometown. It's going to be his second World Cup. El Paso native Ricardo Pepi, who started his pro career with FC Dallas, makes the squad as an attacker. And FC Dallas product Chris Richards will make his World Cup debut. Fox's Chelsea Torres has more on today's roster reveal.
A rowdy atmosphere Tuesday in New York for the reveal of the 2026 U.S. men's national team. 26 players chosen to represent the United States on its home soil.
It definitely is starting to feel real.
The roster includes a mix of veterans and newcomers, the fifth youngest squad the U.S. has ever assembled. Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie lead the way for the red, white, and blue, poised to make a deep run in the world's biggest soccer tournament.
Everyone that competes in the World Cup competes to win. They come with the mentality of winning. That's what competitors do. That's what we do.
The man tasked with making that happen, Coach Mauricio Pochettino, has an impressive resume, having led Tottenham, Paris Saint-Germain, and Chelsea. This is his first time leading the U.S. men's national team.
I think he's changed the culture of the way that we approach things.
played it at such a high level, coached at such a high level. We really lean on him for his experience.
Pochettino says his goal is reaching the semifinals. That would be the deepest run ever for the U.S. team.
We really believe that we can do a fantastic show, that we can perform.
And the players say they're bought in.
We want this so bad, so, if you're not a little bit nervous, you don't feel it a little bit, you don't care.
And with the American fans behind them every step of the way, they've got every reason to believe. The World Cup kicks off in 2 weeks right here on Fox. In New York, Chelsea Torres, Fox 4 News.
A reminder, Fox 4 is the official broadcaster for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Make sure you have the free Fox Local app downloaded. You can find links to the ticket portal and the match schedule as well.
We're tracking some slow-moving thunderstorms across North Texas. Take a look at radar, step you through hour by hour with Futurecast, and look ahead to the 7-day to see how many more chances of rain we've got on the way. I've got those details on the other side of the break.
All right, Dan, see you in a few. Plus, NASA shares an update on its plans to build a permanent base on the moon. More Fox 4 News coming up.
Fox 4. Pretty cool time lapse this afternoon in Arlington from meteorologist Josh John, showing the cumulus clouds bubbling up and building into those scattered afternoon thunderstorms. Like yesterday, they caused some heavy downpours, and also like yesterday, in a couple instances, they produced some very localized high wind gusts. This was likely another wet microburst that occurred around Scurry and Kaufman County, downing some trees. That photo shared with us by Angie Tucker. So here's a look at the radar over the last few hours, and notice something real interesting here. We had this outflow boundary that had kind of stalled out in western Tarrant County. That really ignited the thunderstorms. They were producing their own outflow boundary. Now that one has taken over. You can see it now. It's made its way east of Decatur. It's this thin green line here moving up towards DFW Airport and just east of Waxahachie right now, and that has also helped to ignite these heavy showers and thunderstorms impacting areas in Tarrant County that got hit by some very heavy rain last night and yesterday afternoon. Mansfield, Arlington, this is moving up towards the mid-cities. These areas are very waterlogged, so it won't take too much heavy rain to trigger some flooding issues here. So that's something we'll watch very closely over the next hour or so. They are also putting on quite a light show here. All these cloud-to-ground lightning strikes around Mansfield, over Joe Pool Lake, the Cedar Hill area. Once again, there's the outflow boundary moving up towards DeSoto, east of Waxahachie, and right behind it, we've got some heavy activity there around I-35E. By the way, none of this is severe. We really don't see a severe weather threat with this, but some gusty winds and also maybe some small hail. Storms also have crossed over I-35 through the Waco area. Waco recorded a wind gust close to 40 miles an hour. These are continuing to head off to the east-northeast through Southern Hill County, and they'll be making their way up towards Corsicana and Richland in the next 45 minutes or so. And some more cells here from Allred up towards the Bowie area. These are tending to drift to the north-northwest. So pretty good coverage of showers and storms tonight. A few of the strongest storms could produce some gusty winds, maybe up to 45, perhaps up to nickel-sized hail. And there will be at least a low-end potential of some flash flooding, especially in the areas that saw the heavy rain yesterday and the day before. DFW is actually in need of some rain. This has been hit or miss in recent days here, so we've had a wide variance in terms of rainfall amounts. Our May total officially at DFW, just over 2.5 inches. We're still behind for the year, 3.07 inches. That's the deficit. There's a look at our Fort Worth Tower camera right now, where we've got some rain coming down. It's 79 at DFW and at Love Field, holding at 80 at Alliance. Elsewhere, we've dropped into the 60s in the rain from Mineral Wells and Granbury back to Stephenville and Eastland. And on the flip side, low to mid-70s, Sulphur Springs, Greenville, Canton, and in Terrell at this hour. So Futurecast shows this kind of arcing line of storms that will be moving through over the next few hours. We'll likely still see some scattered storms behind it once it does move off to the east and northeast. This is early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Still at least a few showers and thunderstorms around. We've got this pocket of cool air in the upper atmosphere, what we call a trough. And I think as we heat things up again in the afternoon, there will likely be a few more popcorn showers and thunderstorms that develop Wednesday afternoon. And then we'll watch late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, remnants from some showers and storms up in the Panhandle and western Oklahoma will slide in here from the northwest. And with heating, we'll likely see one more round of widely scattered showers and thunderstorms during the day on Thursday. So this persistent pattern is likely going to continue right through the upcoming weekend, perhaps even into early next week. In fact, here is your 7-day forecast. Chance of storms tomorrow will be 40%. I think a little higher to our east and northeast. 30% chance Thursday. It's just a slight chance during the day Friday, but another disturbance will likely lead to an uptick in showers and thunderstorms Friday night into Saturday morning. Saturday's high 88. 30% chances there on Sunday and Monday, and we'll finally cut it back to Tuesday to 20% with a high of 84.
All right, Dan, thank you. NASA provided a new look at its plan to create a colony on the moon in the future. The space agency says a permanent base on the moon is in the works. It will be a place for astronauts to live and work. It would be on the South Pole and would be used as a launching point for future missions to Mars. The process would take more than a decade to fully complete. NASA says it will become the home for humanity's future technology.
We go for the technology we will pioneer to get there, the science and all that we will learn that will make life better here on Earth, to advance humankind on this great adventure, to inspire the next generation to do it better than we can.
NASA has already scheduled 2 more Artemis missions with the goal of testing flight procedures and docking, and another mission aimed at landing on the moon for the first time in decades. Coming up, how U.S. health officials are tightening screenings for people traveling from countries with an outbreak of Ebola. Plus, at least 1 person is dead, several others injured after a chemical tank explodes in Washington state. More Fox 4 News coming up.
Four.
Iran denounced the most recent strikes from the U.S. as a sign of bad faith during negotiations to end the war. Iran threatened to retaliate after the U.S. struck multiple targets yesterday. The U.S. military characterized the strikes as defensive, claiming the targets were missile launch sites and mine-laying boats. It was not clear how these developments are affecting negotiations. After claiming a deal was mostly negotiated over the weekend, President Trump yesterday added fresh demands. The president is expected to discuss the war with his cabinet at the White House tomorrow. The implosion of a chemical tank at a pulp and paper mill in Washington state killed one person. 9 others are still unaccounted for. Authorities confirmed a responding firefighter was also injured in the blast this morning at a Nippon plant that's about 50 miles north of Portland, Oregon. Some victims suffered burns or inhalation injuries, and the severity of the injuries ranges from minor to critical. Crews say no identifying information will be released without speaking with victims' relatives first. Authorities say there is no immediate threat to the public. Health officials are tightening screenings here in the U.S. as the death toll continues to climb in Africa's Ebola outbreak. Travelers into the U.S. from affected parts of Central Africa are ordered to enter the U.S. through 3 airports only for specific screening. CDC personnel are at Washington Dulles, Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta, and Houston's Bush Intercontinental to check passengers for symptoms.
Got symptoms, they're getting tested and linked to care. This isn't likely to find any kind of hospitable ability to spread in the United States.
The World Health Organization says there are more than 900 suspected cases of Ebola, more than 220 suspected deaths. Aid workers say they need more protective equipment, test kits, and body bags to handle the outbreak. The Supreme Court declined to intervene on a discrimination lawsuit against the NFL. Former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores accuses the league of being racist with its hiring practices. 2 other coaches who are black, Steve Wilkes and Ray Horton, also joined that lawsuit. The NFL argued Flores should have gone through arbitration instead of the legal system. The Supreme Court's decision sends the case back down to a lower court for trial. American Airlines announces a new partnership to bring better internet access to passengers on some of its planes. Plus, the Scripps National Spelling Bee begins in Washington, D.C. How our North Texas contestants did on day 1. American Airlines will begin offering Starlink Wi-Fi on hundreds of flights. The airline says it will be available to AAdvantage members at no additional charge. Hundreds of its single-aisle Airbus planes will be upgraded to connect to the satellite internet. United, Southwest, and Alaska Airlines have already offered Starlink Wi-Fi. Delta partners with Amazon's LEO satellites for its own connectivity. Massachusetts became the first state to recognize a union for rideshare drivers on apps like Uber and Lyft amid automation fears. It's a milestone in the growing effort to organize gig economy workers classified as independent contractors under federal labor law. The victory could provide a model for similar campaigns gaining traction in states including California and Illinois. Italian sports car brand Ferrari unveiling its first fully electric vehicle. The Lucci has 4 electric engines, all-wheel drive, and advanced drivetrain. The company says the design has a more spacious interior than other models while maintaining high standards for performance. But here's the starting price: $640,000. More news in a moment.
Be the choice.
The Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. is underway. The day began with 247 spellers. After 3 rounds, only 95 are advancing to the quarterfinals tomorrow. That includes 4 of the 5 students from North Texas representing schools in DeSoto, Prosper, Capel, and Burleson. They are 12-year-old Benjamin Pearson, 13-year-old Avishka Judala, 13-year-old Chris Manjunath, and 14-year-old Luke Sterlin. Last year's winner was a Plano ISD student who lives in Allen. Good luck. Thank you so much for joining us for Fox 4 News at 9. Fox 4 News continues with Clarice Tinsley in just 15 seconds.
You're going to see a lot of Memorial Day sales, but we're the only ones with prices like this. This $1,000 Texas-built reclining sofa for just $699 while supplies last. Home Zone, we're different.
You're watching Fox 4 News.
Good evening. I'm Clarice Tinsley. We've got an active radar. Storms are moving into North Texas right now. Let's get you straight to Fox 4 Chief Meteorologist Dan Henry. Dan.
Hey there, Clarice. Yeah, the good news is these aren't producing any severe weather, but certainly some heavy rain and frequent cloud-to-ground lightning. Let's take a look at radar, and you can see these are slowly moving up from the west and southwest. I'll go in for a closer look into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Very well-defined outflow boundary that stretches from Argyle through Grapevine, Irving, down towards DeSoto and Lancaster. And then just behind that outflow boundary is where we have the heavy thunderstorms. Now, sliding up through Arlington towards the mid-cities, these were areas that saw some very heavy rain yesterday, so it's very waterlogged, and that could certainly lead to some flooding issues in those locations. A little farther south we take you, heavy thunderstorms stretch from Waxahachie down through Mertens and Blooming Grove, and then these cells in far southeastern portions of the area, down around Thornton, Groesbeck, over towards Mart, they could have some small hail in them, maybe up to the size of dimes, and produce some 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So the good news, once again, to recap, is that the strongest storms will likely produce wind gusts below severe limits, maybe up to 45 miles an hour, perhaps up to nickel-sized hail. And we will continue to monitor these for the potential of at least some localized flooding. We'll take another look at radar, step you through what we have on tap tonight, hour by hour, and, of course, run down your complete 7-day forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Dan, thanks. It is runoff election night in Texas as voters decide who will be on the ballot in November. You can find a full list of the results on our website, fox4news.com. Right now, let's get to the biggest race. In the Republican runoff for U.S. Senate, and Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton defeated sitting Senator John Cornyn for the Republican Senate nomination. Fox 4's David Centendry is at Paxton's watch party in Plano. David.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, Clarice, Ken Paxton's watch party is a wrap. A bit earlier than probably most people expected, and that's really just because those results came in so early with a wide gap, and Paxton was declared the winner by the Associated Press really early on in the evening, much earlier than people expected. We were inside of this watch party when the crowd erupted, when that projection went on the screen as they had Fox News on over just behind me. And again, people were thinking that this could have been a pretty tight race. Ken Paxton was slightly favored, but some of his supporters were telling me beforehand, hey, they think this was a coin flip tonight going into all this. But again, the margin of victory quite wide for Ken Paxton, and they got in and they really got out. He was scheduled to come on stage at 9:15, but because he was declared the victor so early on, he came on at about 8:30. So again, we'll kind of take you back to where this all began. Paxton was slightly favored in this race, and the early numbers were big. That gap did not close, and what everyone was talking about for these past few days was that Donald Trump endorsement. Keep in mind, for months, President Donald Trump was really just dangling that endorsement out there. No one knew exactly which way he was going to go, Paxton or Cornyn. And then it was just last week that he officially went to side with Paxton, saying Paxton is his guy. So with how close the primary election was a couple months back, you have to think that President Trump's endorsement played a big role in this win tonight for Paxton. And he made sure to thank the president during his speech tonight.
And then there's one person who I think you might know. President Donald J. Trump. When everyone in Washington told him to abandon me and abandon the people of Texas, he didn't listen. Instead, he gave his complete and total endorsement. President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics. And I'm honored to have his support.
And you've probably seen those numbers. Ken Paxton with 64% of the votes compared to Cornyn's 36%, 75% of precincts reporting at this point in time. But again, he's been declared the winner for a couple hours now by the Associated Press. Now, keep in mind that even before this runoff election, this was the most expensive primary in Texas state history. More than $100 spent on this election alone, and that was $100 million spent on this election alone, and that was even before this runoff election. So more money coming into this, and now There's no doubt that for this significant race, it's going to get even more heated as we look toward November, with Paxton squaring off with James Tallarico. Tonight, during Paxton's response, he dropped a few nicknames for Tallarico, nicknames that I don't think Tallarico or his supporters would approve of. But as we saw those campaign ads between Cornyn and Paxton, they were very heated. There was a lot of animosity there, and certainly it's probably only going to heat up even more as we get closer to November. Clarice.
All right, David, thank you. Earlier this evening, Senator Cornyn took to the stage to acknowledge his defeat after 4 terms.
After a public service career lasting more than 4 decades and 18 consecutive campaign wins, tonight we've come up short in this primary runoff. And I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again in this general election. I've said throughout this race that I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it.
Despite vowing his support for the ticket, Cornyn did not mention Paxton by name. He went on to say he plans to continue serving the state for the remainder of his term. The Democratic nominee for the Senate race, State Representative James Tallarico, released a video statement after Paxton's win. He called the Attorney General, quote, the most corrupt politician in America.
That kind of corruption is the rot at the core of this broken system. It's why we can't afford anything. It's why we can't get ahead no matter how hard we work. For 50 years, mega donors and their puppet politicians like Ken Paxton have stolen from us.
We're also watching the Democratic runoff for U.S. District 33. This is a redrawn district. Current U.S. Representative for District 32, Julie Johnson, is facing former District 32 Representative Colin Allred. Early votes have Allred in the lead. He gave a short speech to supporters, which sounded a lot like a victory speech. Fox 4's Amelia Jones is at Allred's watch party in Dallas tonight. Amelia.
Clarice, Colin Allred's watch party has wrapped up. People have left, but he did speak to his supporters about an hour ago, as you mentioned, and the race has not been called, but Colin Allred has kept a steady lead all night since the polls closed and those votes started to come in. When he addressed his supporters, he talked about the need to bring down the high cost of living, especially things like gas, groceries, rent. He talked about fighting for civil rights and keeping the momentum going into November. Allred is a former congressman. He represented District 32, which was redrawn away from Dallas. Much of that district will now be part of the newly drawn District 33. Julie Johnson currently represents the area. She succeeded him when he ran his failed campaign for U.S. Senate against Ted Cruz. Both candidates had backing from prominent Democrats. Allred was supported by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and Johnson received support from State Representative and Democrat U.S. State Senate candidate James Tallarico. The race did become hotly contested. Allred and Johnson threw attacks at each other surrounding the issue of immigration, an important topic as the newly drawn District 33 is now a majority-minority district with a large Latino population. His message to the crowd tonight was to come together and define what the Democratic Party stands for.
Because there are people out there who are struggling.
Yes.
Yeah. There are people out there who are looking for somebody who might care. And I do. And I know y'all do. We know what's at stake. If we stand for anything, it has to be for working people. It has to be for opportunity, for the idea that if you work hard and you play by the rules, that you should be able to get ahead.
Allred did not mention his opponent, Julie Johnson, when he spoke to his supporters. I reached out to Johnson's campaign team, but have not heard back as if she is going to make any statement or speak tonight. The race still has not been called, as we've been talking about. Johnson is not holding her own watch party. Rather, she is at Attorney General Democrat candidate Nathan Johnson's watch party nearby here in downtown Dallas. District 33 is now anchored entirely in Dallas County, and it's expected to heavily favor Democrats in November. So essentially, Allred is heading into the general election as the likely winner to represent the district in Congress. Clarice.
Thanks, Amelia. Now let's take a look at some of the other big races in the Republican runoff for Attorney General. State Senator Mays Middleton defeated Congressman Chip Roy. Middleton, an oil and gas executive who put up millions of his own money to run the campaign, defeated Roy in tonight's runoff. On the Democratic side for Attorney General, State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas defeated former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski. We have more information on our website, fox4news.com. Next on Fox 4 News at 10, a deadly shooting at a short-term rental property in West Dallas is being blamed on uninvited guests. The latest on the search for the shooters. A 17-year-old is in the ICU after being shot in a suspected road rage incident. We speak with his family ahead. Three people are dead. Another person is injured after a shootout at a West Dallas short-term rental property. No arrests have been made. Police say a fight broke out after an uninvited group showed up at the party. Fox 4's Vanya Castillo has more from investigators. Vanya.
Now, we did talk to neighbors, but a lot of them were still pretty shaken up by what happened last night. But many of them did tell me that they've become a lot more nervous after having more short-term rentals pop up like the one from yesterday.
It's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking.
By daylight, the party was over, but outside this West Dallas home, the reminders were everywhere. Bullet holes, broken windows, and crews cleaning blood from inside the house. Pastor Earl Thomas speaking on the loss in his community.
It's not that we're losing our next generation. If we look around and take a deep breath, we've lost them.
Dallas police say 3 young people were killed after gunfire erupted during a party at the short-term rental just after midnight. 20-year-old Jacelyn Scott, 19-year-old Journey Griffin, and a third unidentified person were killed. A fourth person was taken to a hospital. Police believe an uninvited group showed up to the party before the gunfire broke out. Several neighbors who were too scared to speak on camera told us that there are often large parties at this rental.
So when people are not moving to the community to live in the community because they can afford the community, then they're coming to rent out, lease out the Airbnbs. That brings sometimes trouble to the community simply because it's not us.
Hours after the shooting, we watched 2 people leave the home wearing sunglasses and hats. We tried to ask them questions, but they didn't want to speak with us.
Trouble goes wherever it's invited, and it really doesn't need an invitation, it just needs access.
But for neighbors here, it's about more than this one shooting.
My prayer is that we really come back together, sit down and have conversations about how we can kind of direct the next generation on what it is to be peaceful, educated, and have a sense of what the next 10 to 20 years.
Now, as of now, police have not made any arrests, but are asking that anyone with any information come forward. Vania Castillo, Fox 4 News.
We are hearing from the family of a 17-year-old who is on life support after he was shot in the head during a road rage shooting in Fort Worth. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager reports.
Giovanni Rocha's family spent the day here at Harris Methodist in Fort Worth waiting for the moment the teenager is taken away for his organs to be donated. Now, the family tells me they are angry and they are frustrated, but right now they are focused on trying to navigate those next heartbreaking steps.
Like I always do when he's going out, he usually tells me, I'm leaving. Okay, take care then. I'll see you later. And later, I end up being here then.
Take care. Some of the final words spoken between siblings before 17-year-old Giovanni Rocha left home for a late-night snack. Less than an hour later, his family was rushing to the hospital.
I look at him and I like to think that maybe he'll wake up, but we all know he won't anymore.
The 17-year-old shot in the back of the head during a road rage incident late Saturday night. Rocha slumped over in the passenger seat of his friend's Chevy Silverado, pulled over at a gas station at Mansfield Highway and Seminary Drive. Rocha's friend in the driver's seat and Rocha's younger brother, a 15-year-old, in the back seat. Fort Worth police say the teens had just been in a minor traffic accident with a Chevy Avalanche with oversized chrome wheels. At a red light, police say there was some sort of argument, and 41-year-old Jose Camargo Madrigal fired into the Silverado. Fox 4 obtained surveillance video showing the Silverado speeding through an intersection on Seminary. Seconds later, the Avalanche appears to chase after it. Camargo Madrigal was arrested early Sunday morning, admitting to the shooting while his son drove them to buy baby formula. He's now charged with murder.
I know that nothing will be the same anymore.
Rocha just finished his junior year at Dunbar High School in Fort Worth, and for the summer started his own landscaping service, even making these business cards. His older sister passing on words she constantly heard around the house.
That he'll probably tell you that live life. He was the type of guy to just live it.
Words that now have a heavier meaning. In Fort Worth, Peyton Yeager, Fox 4 News.
Storm chaser Nick Busby has literally been all across the state of Texas over the last week chasing storms. Today, he was down near the border and was actually in Del Rio looking across the border into far northern Mexico, where he spotted this ominous supercell. Had some big storms develop today on the mountains in northern Mexico, and then they charged eastward across the border into South Texas. At this hour, look at the line of storms that stretches from the Metroplex all the way down 35 through Austin, San Antonio, into deep South Texas. Now, the southern end of this, from roughly Austin down through San Antonio into South Texas, the air is more unstable here. There's more wind shear, and so this is where the primary severe weather threat is going to reside tonight. In fact, there's a tornado warning in effect east of San Antonio near Converse. That's radar indicated rotation, so there is a possibility we could see a tornado spin up there. In addition to that, very heavy rain has triggered numerous flash flood warnings, so things are quieter in comparison here in North Texas. We've got this arcing band of showers and thunderstorms, kind of just run-of-the-mill showers and storms up around Bowie and Decatur. Let's take a closer look now into Tarrant County, and some areas that got hit very heavy yesterday by upwards of 3 inches of rain. The mid-cities down towards Pantego have gotten more heavy rain this evening here, so no doubt there's likely at least some localized flooding going on with the waterlogged conditions there. That's our well-defined outflow boundary that precedes the storms heading up towards Corinth, Louisville, Carrollton, into the Park Cities now, and that will likely spark new thunderstorm development. More heavy downpours and frequent cloud-to-ground lightning stretching from DeSoto through the Red Oak area and between Waxahachie and and Palmer. Again, none of this is severe. There could be some gusty winds and very, very small hail. The strongest storms right now are in far southeastern portions of the area, Limestone, Freestone counties here, in the Groesbeck area, Thornton up towards Mejia. These could produce up to dime-sized hail and wind gusts up to about 40, maybe 45 miles an hour. So yes, a few of the strongest storms could produce some of those gusty winds up to 45, maybe up to nickel-sized hail, and certainly there is at least the possibility of some flash flooding, especially in areas that have seen the heavy downpours in recent days. DFW, though, for the most part, has avoided some of the heaviest rain. Our May total still at 2.55 inches. And we are still running a 3-inch deficit for the year. Currently, we've got 75 at DFW, 77 at Love Field. This is downtown Fort Worth, 72 right now at Alliance Airport. So here come the storms slowly marching in from the west and southwest as we head through the next few hours. That's 11 o'clock. That's about 1 o'clock in the morning. And then they continue to kind of spiral off to the northeast with the actual disturbance itself. So there still will be a few showers and thunderstorms on radar early tomorrow morning, and it really starts to let up as we head towards midday with a little heating in the afternoon. Partly sunny skies. We'll look for at least a few more isolated pop-up showers and thunderstorms during the mid to late afternoon hours, and then remnants from some storms in northwest Texas up towards the Panhandle, western Oklahoma, kind of move in here early Thursday morning. Notice a little spin here in the atmosphere. Perhaps a little disturbance that with heating will generate some more scattered thunderstorm activity as we head through the day on Thursday. So this persistent pattern is not going to change anytime soon. 7-day forecast, a 40% chance of more scattered storms tomorrow, 82. It's a 30% chance Thursday. We cut it to 20% Friday through the day, but I think we'll see an uptick in coverage Friday night into Saturday as another slow-moving disturbance comes our way. And notice those daily rain and storm chances continue Sunday and Monday, and then they start to dwindle by Tuesday.
Thanks, Dan. There's an update on the Democratic race for District 33, the congressional seat. The Associated Press has declared Colin Allred the winner over Julie Johnson. The redrawn district is heavily Democratic. That gives Allred a solid chance to return to Congress in November. Plano City Council approved a zoning change for AT&T as the company plans to build a tower on its new headquarters in the city. The telecommunications giant 280-foot tower will feature the company's logo along with more than 2 million square feet of office space. The rezoning at the site is needed because the tower will also function as a communications antenna. AT&T announced earlier this year that it was leaving downtown Dallas for Plano. We'll be right back. Fox 4 is sending every best wish to the class of 2026. We're working to get you that tape so you can see the grads. These three grads are part of the Fox 4 family. Their uncle, David Tafoya, is one of our photojournalists. Kenna Ramsey graduated from John Paul II High School. She'll attend the University of Oklahoma to major in broadcast journalism and minor in meteorology. Casey Tafoya is graduating from Bishop Lynch High School. She'll be at Tarleton State University, majoring in kinesiology with minors in dance and sports broadcasting. Jesse Velez graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. In July, he'll start a job in cybersecurity. Asia Wells is graduating from DeSoto High School. She's going to attend the University of North Texas and major in biology. She plans to be an ER doctor. Levon Matusian will graduate in the inaugural class of Eagle Mountain High School. This rising Red Raider will major in business at Texas Tech University. Iverson Simpson will graduate from Cedar Hill High School. He's going to enroll in UTI to become an auto diesel mechanic. Adriana Torres graduated from the University of Houston with a master's degree in athletic training. Tiffany Cross graduated from Texas A&M University with a master's degree in legal studies. Congratulations to the class of 2026. Fox 4 is here with you.
Hey guys, I'm Sam Gannon. Ahead tonight on Free for All, Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals between the Thunder and Spurs. This series knotted up at 2 games apiece. Big bounce back for the Rangers offense, but was it enough tonight? Plus, 16 days out from the start of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the U.S. men's national team roster was unveiled today. We're talking all about that tonight, along with some great insight from the tickets, Peter Welpton, which brings us to the poll of the night. Rate the U.S. men's national team World Cup roster. Will reveal the results at the end of the show.